All right. Thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. It is currently 1:12 a.m. and today's date is the 13th of March, 2025. How are you doing? How are you doing? Yes, I wasn't gonna come, but I'm like, you know what? I have to come here. And glad I did. We're gonna check out some updates. Okay, there's been a lot of updates. This man does a lot in a day. Okay, 24 hours is like 72 seconds to this guy. But, ladies and gentlemen, President Trump meets with Taoiseach of uh, Ireland, Michael Martin, in the Oval Office today in the White House. We're gonna check that off. Um, how you guys doing? How's your day? How's your day? Some of you are at work. Some of you are at home. Some of you are like getting ready to go to sleep. And how was your day yesterday? And how is your day going currently? Anyway, let the show begin.
Ready? Jim? Yep. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have Micheál Martin, Taoiseach, Ireland. It's a special place, and he's a very special guy. He did it the hard way also. He served, and then he took a little time off, and then he served again. I've heard about that. That happens on occasion. And he's done very well. And we knew each other from a long time ago. But it's a great honor to have you in the Oval Office and have you at the White House. We have tremendous business relationships with Ireland, and that will only get stronger. The relationship we have personally and every other way is very, very strong and very, very good. So I just want to welcome you to Washington, D.C. and to our country, and thank you very much.
May I thank you, President. It's a great honour for me to be here to celebrate St. Patrick's with you.
Right.
And I thank you for your hospitality and the warmth of your reception. And I commend you in terms of the work that you're doing, particularly in terms of the pursuit of peace, which we discussed earlier. And I think that's going well. And you really have, in the first sort of 100 days of this government, you've done some extraordinary things very quickly.
Thank you.
Everybody's watching in that respect. So
Thank you.
Delighted to be here. It's an honour to be here.
Well, it's a great honor to have you, and special people, very special people. I know a lot of Irish, and growing up in New York, I know a couple of your people that used to live in that beautiful Ireland, and now they're here, but they love your country very much. You know, they have a great feeling toward your country.
They have, and a lot come back for holidays and
they come back.
Stuff like that, and checking out their family, ancestry, and things like that. You know.
Great, fantastic people.
Some go to Doonbeg as well. Yeah.
And they go. We love Doonbeg. I love them. I don't know if I'll ever see it again. Maybe I won't, but
we would like
I
to
think
come
I
back
will.
and see it.
We'll get there. We're going to get there. It's a beautiful place, wonderful place. Any questions?
Mr. President, on tariffs, how far are you
please.
worried? President Trump, how worried are you about the counter tariffs from the EU, which were announced yesterday? And also, how worried should Ireland be, given the fact that it has a massive trade surplus with the US, over $50 billion? Micheál Martin might be quite nervous about what you're going to tell him today.
Well, I don't think he looks nervous to me. And if he was nervous, he wouldn't show it. No, we do have a massive deficit with Ireland, because Ireland was very smart. They took our pharmaceutical companies away from presidents that didn't know what they were doing. And, it's too bad that happened. It's a tremendous job I give. Look, the Irish are smart. You're smart people. And you took our pharmaceutical companies and other companies, but, through taxation and proper taxation, they made it very, very good for companies to move over there. And we had presidents and people that were involved in this that had no idea what they were doing, and they lost big segments of our economy. The European Union treats us very badly. They have for years. I saw that. I had it out with them in my first term. It did well, but we had to solve other problems, and we did. But European Union's been very tough, and it's our turn too. We get a turn at that also, but they have not been fair. They sue our companies, and win massive amounts of money. They sued Apple, won $17 billion, and they use that for other reasons, I guess, or to run the European Union. So I'm not knocking it. They're doing what they should be doing, perhaps, for the European Union, but it does create ill will. And as you know, we're going to be doing reciprocal tariffs. So whatever they charge us, we're charging them. Nobody can complain about that. Whatever it is, it doesn't even matter what it is. If they charge us 25 or 20% or 10% or 2% or 200%, then that's what we're charging them. And
that's fair.
So I don't know why people get upset about that, because there's nothing more fair than that. And we had a problem with Ontario, and they dropped that when I let them know what we were going to be doing. They dropped it immediately, so I'm glad, because electricity, you shouldn't be playing with electricity. It affects people's lives. Actually their life. I mean, it can affect, depending on weather, it can affect their life, so we can't do that. And it doesn't make sense that our country allows electricity to be made in another country and sold into us. Who did that deal for the United States? Okay, I looked at that long ago, and I said that's not something that's very smart. So we've had a lot of bad trade policies, and yet we're doing very well right now. But we're doing well because I won the election. If I didn't win the election, you would have had a very bad period. I think a lot of the stock market going down was because of a really bad 4 years that we had. When you look at inflation and all of the other problems wars and inflation and so many other problems. But we're going to have very good years. We had, I don't know if you saw a little thing like the cost of eggs, little to you, but big to people out there.
Cost of eggs.
Almost 30%.
Guys, how is the cost of eggs where you stay right now? You think it's getting affordable? The news on the street is the eggs are now affordable. That's the news on the street. Let me know in the comment section. In the chat, let me know. Are the eggs now affordable in the market?
In the last few days, we got it down. We did a lot of things. We have a great Secretary of Agriculture, and we did a lot of things that got the cost of eggs down very substantially, and so many other things. A very big thing that I'm very happy with is oil is down to $65 a barrel, and that's faster than I would have anticipated. We put on the gas. We stepped in the gas in order to get oil, and what's happening. So we're getting that down, and when energy comes down, prices are going to be coming down with it. So in a very short period of time, we've done a very good job. And I think that the tariffs that we're talking about, and again, reciprocal, I think that the tariffs, there are some cases where they're a little beyond reciprocal because, we've been abused for a long time as a country. We have been abused really for a long time, and we will be abused no longer. Okay.
Are you going to retaliate to the EU retaliation?
Education, sir, would you describe for us, is this meeting your vision by cutting about half the workforce? And what responsibility do you feel to the civil servants who have now lost their jobs? Many of them worked at the Department of Education during your first term.
Sure, I do. I feel very badly, but many of them don't work at all. Many of them never showed up to work. Many of them never showed up to work, Kelly, and unfortunately, and that's not good. And when we cut, we go, and that's what I had a number of meetings with a lot of people over the last couple of months. When we cut, we want to cut, but we want to cut the people that aren't working or not doing a good job. We're keeping the best people. And Linda McMahon is a real professional, actually a very sophisticated business person. And she cut a large number, but she kept the best people. And we'll see how it all works out. But our country was run very badly. I mean, whether it was that or contracts that were signed that was so bad, so obviously bad, and I go through them in speeches. I could go through them all day long. I could read for billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, and all of that fat and waste and fraud and abuse is being taken out. But it's incredible what's happened. Now, Department of Education's maybe more so than any other place has a lot of people that can be cut. They're, number one, not showing up to work. Number two, they're not doing a good job. And if you take a look at our education process, and if you look at the charts, because they have numerous charts where they do the top 40, we're at number 37, 38, 39, and 40. And recently they hit, during Biden's last few days, they hit last. So they were number 40, and yet we're number 1 in cost per pupil.
He makes sure to say during Biden's term, his last week, he made it to the last position.
So it's pretty bad. But we have a dream, and you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states, so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states.
That's another thing that I support. I do support bringing the education close to home, which is the states. Okay, every state should be able to handle their own educational system and how it's going to work for the parent, homeschoolers or daytime schoolers. But yeah, I support school choice. Let me know what you guys think, though.
States can run education, and
who wouldn't support school choice, though?
You have Norway, you have Denmark, you have Sweden, you have Finland, you have various countries that do very well. You also have China that does very well in education, which is a pretty big tribute to China, I must say. 1.4 billion, and they're in the top 10, and it's pretty amazing. So we can't blame size anymore. Normally you'd blame size. It's too big. How can you do it? But China does it. So we think when you move it back to Iowa and Indiana and all the states that run so well, there's so many, I could name 30, maybe almost 40. Those will be as good as Denmark. Those will be as good as Norway, and they'll be as good as any of these. I believe they'll be as good as any. Now, then you're going to have 10 that won't be so great. You're going to have 5 that will not be good at all, but we'll work with them and we'll get them to be good. But what we want to do is always school choice, but we're going to do school choice, and we're doing it. But we want education to be moved back where the states run education, where the parents of the children will be running education, where governors that are doing a very good job will be running education, not run. I drive through the city and I see like so many buildings, Department of Education, Department of big buildings, and by the way, they're empty. Nobody shows up to work. So I think Linda did a very good job.
Mr. President, do you have a meeting with Vladimir Putin scheduled or a conversation? What would be your
I won't comment on that, but we had a great success yesterday. We have a full ceasefire. If it kicks in, we have to see. It's up to Russia now. But we've had a good relationship with both parties, actually, and we'll see. We'll be knowing people are going to Russia right now as we speak, and hopefully we can get a ceasefire from Russia. And if we do, I think that would be 80% of the way to getting this horrible bloodbath finished. It's a bloodbath is taking place over there. On average, 2,000 to 3,000 young people a week are being killed in that stupid war that would have never happened if I were president. So we have people going over there. Mr. VP, do you have anything to say about it? Because you're very much involved. What's going to happen?
Well, we've got some conversations that are happening on the phone and in person with some of our representatives over the next couple of days. As the president said, we think that we're in a very good place where the Ukrainians have agreed to a ceasefire, and we're now going to see whether we can get the Russians to agree to a ceasefire too. And we'll certainly have news on that when we find out that news.
Are you confident that President Putin will keep the ceasefire, considering that he's broken them in the past?
We haven't spoken to him yet. With substance, because we just found out and we just were able to get Ukraine to agree. So we're going to know very soon. I've gotten some positive messages, but a positive message means nothing. This is a very serious situation. This is a situation that could lead to World War III. And Biden should have never let it happen. Incompetence allowed this to happen. This shouldn't have happened. October 7th in the Middle East should have never happened with Israel. The horrible leaving, the way they left Afghanistan should have never happened. Inflation should have never happened. We have great inflation numbers, by the way, just got released. Inflation is way down, and it's based on what we've done, and we've done it in a very short period of time. We had virtually no inflation. For 4 years, we had almost no inflation, and when these characters took over, we went from no inflation to the worst inflation probably in the history of our country. So it's very interesting. Go ahead.
Are you going to retaliate against?
And by the way, I have to speak of inflation. I love these socks. What's with these socks?
It's in honor of the Taoiseach.
I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm very impressed with the VP's socks.
That the United States is recognised as having such an important role in the peace process, and yet half the parties from the Northern Ireland government have decided not to come to St. Patrick's Day celebrations.
They haven't what?
They haven't come over. They're boycotting the St. Patrick's Day celebrations.
What are they boycotting?
They are talking about your position on Gaza as one of the reasons why.
No, I haven't heard that. I really haven't heard that. Look,
Can I just say, I've got to pay tribute to the President on the peace initiatives. The one thing we've learned in Ireland about the peace process that you've just spoken about, and I recall back in the early 90s, when the first tentative steps to get peace in Ireland, people criticised people like John Hume or people like Albert Reynolds, the then Taoiseach. But they kept going. And when we got that ceasefire in 1993, okay, it took a number of years to get the comprehensive peace settlement. But again, the guns more or less largely went silent. The war in Ukraine is a devastating war on young people. And I think that very simple, straightforward narrative is to be commended. We all have children. I mean, we're shocked at the prospect of young people losing their lives in that number, be they Ukrainian, be they Russian, whatever. Anything we can do to stop the violence, I think, is an extremely positive day. And there will be all sorts of people having qualifications on it and all the rest of it. It's our job then to work on it and to try and build it, Europe, US and everything.
I will say, and thank you for that, but I will say, last week 2,500 young people died while we sit here and talk.
Yeah.
And while they talk about peace, but they've been talking about peace. This should have never happened. This war should have never happened. It would have never happened if I was president. That's what makes me more angry than anything else, because you've had far more people die than they report, than these people report, for whatever reason. But you had far more people. The numbers are far more devastating. You'll find that out someday. And it doesn't affect you very much. They're not Irish, and they're not from my country. They're from Russia mostly, almost all from Russia and from Ukraine. And people could say, why are you doing this? Why are you involved in that? Because 2,000 people a week are dying. And they have families, and they have mothers, and they have fathers, and they have sisters, and they have brothers and friends. And they're dying. And I've seen the pictures, the satellite pictures that we see all the time. And it looks like Gettysburg in its prime, because that was, they say, one of the most horrific battles ever. You have kids lying all over these fields that are dead because the weapons today are unbelievable, between drones and various types of guns. I'm not even talking about beyond that with the big babies. You understand what I mean? I hate to even mention the name, the nuclear name. I hate to mention it. But you have weapons today that are so powerful. And I see kids every week. I see pictures of kids laying all over the field dead. They're dead. Beautiful kids. They're dead. And they're not from here and they're not from where you are, but he's working very hard. We're all working hard to get this thing finished. It's crazy over nothing, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's just a terrible situation. And I think we have a chance to get it done. So we've gotten half of it as a ceasefire, and if we can get Russia to stop, then we have a full ceasefire, and I think it'll never go back to war. I think something will.
Can I ask you about Ireland's relationship with Israel? There's been a lot of talk recently. The government are looking to bring in what's called the Occupied Territories Bill, which would ban goods from occupied territories. I know you met with Prime Minister Netanyahu recently. Did Ireland come up in that conversation? Did he raise any concerns about the Irish government?
One thing I'll tell you, you're not from Israel, that's for sure, huh? She's definitely not from Israel. It's an interesting question coming from you. We talk about everything. Israel has been under siege, as you can see, and they had to fight back. October 7th was a terrible thing. People don't like to mention it, but it was a terrible, terrible day in the life of the world. And it's amazing the way people don't mention that, but it was, I've never seen anything like it. Those are other clips I get to see. You know, as president, you get to see clips that you'd rather not see, but I see clips, and that was a terrible day for the world.
I see clips.
And we're working hard with Israel. We're working hard to see if we can solve the problem. I will say I just saw 10 hostages, and they were treated really badly. They were really treated badly. I was shocked. I asked them, was there any kindness shown? They were in there. One was in there for 500 days. One was 323 days. I said, was there any, 10 of them, I said, was there any kindness displayed? Like, did they ever, like, say, don't worry, you'll be okay, or give you a little wink, or give you, like, an extra slice of bread or something? And everybody said, all of these people said, zero. It was hatred. It was pure hatred. So, I mean, that's a very deep-seated problem.
Would you give the Taoiseach some advice? Would you give the Taoiseach some advice? Ireland is in.
How can you not come to the conclusion that this person actually wants peace? He's advocating for peace. Every single time he talks to the press, he's always advocating for peace. And yet this person's supposed to be the divider, the bad person. Come on. Yeah, this guy right here. I'm proud I voted for Trump.
In the midst of a housing crisis now, and I know you have a lot of experience as a businessman. How can the state build tens of thousands of houses at speed?
You know why they have a housing crisis? Because they're doing so well. They can't produce houses fast enough. That's a good problem, not a bad problem. That's a
pretty good answer, President.
No, it's true.
Will you put more tariffs on the EU, Mr. President? Mr. President, will you?
Everybody should have that problem. That's okay.
Will you put more tariffs on the EU?
I know this gentleman. He'll get it solved.
Will you put more tariffs on the EU? Will you respond to their retaliation?
Oh, of course I'm going to respond.
You will retaliate.
The problem
with more
is
tariffs.
our country didn't respond. Look, the EU was set up in order to take advantage of the United States.
Including Ireland? Is Ireland taking advantage of the US?
Of course they are. I can't, you know, I have great respect for Ireland and what they did. And they should have done just what they did. But the United States shouldn't have let it happen. We had stupid leaders. We had leaders that didn't have a clue. Or let's say they weren't business people, but they didn't have a clue what was happening. And all of a sudden, Ireland has, you know, our pharmaceutical companies and other, this beautiful island of 5 million people has got the entire U.S. pharmaceutical industry in its grasp. And, you know, you mentioned housing and you mentioned other things. I mean, I have property in Ireland, as you know, and I love it. It does great. But I'd like to see the United States not have been so stupid for so many years, not just with Ireland, with everybody. You know, I looked at trade deals. I was telling the group yesterday, I looked at trade deals in term one. It's one of the reasons I decided I had to do this, because somebody had to straighten it out, and I didn't see anybody that was going to. I looked at trade deals that were so bad, I'd actually say, how is it possible that this could have happened? Who would have been so stupid to let these deals happen? For instance, when the pharmaceutical companies started to go to Ireland, I would have said, that's okay if you want to go to Ireland. I think it's great. But if you want to sell anything into the United States, I'm going to put a 200% tariff on you. So you're never going to be able to sell anything into the United States. You know what they would have done? They would have stayed here.
So do you want to lower corporate taxes?
He's so lucky that I wasn't.
Are you planning to lower corporate taxes to match Ireland?
Well, we are planning to lower taxes, yeah, if the Democrats behave, but the Democrats have no clue. You saw that the other night during the speech. 2 young women were slaughtered by illegal aliens. 1 young man has very serious cancer and many other problems. We look at the people up there. They all had difficulty, very serious difficulty. But when we're talking about 2 young girls, beautiful young girls, Lake and Riley, you know the whole story. That evening was a disaster for the Democrats, in my opinion. And I would mention, and I'd see 2 mothers that were inconsolable as they stood, crying. Their daughters have been absolutely just destroyed, killed, viciously killed. And the young man who loves the police departments, he had cancer and has cancer, very bad cancer. There wasn't from people sitting there, Democrats, there wasn't a hand clap. Nobody stood. They were just stone-faced. These people are sick. There's something wrong with them. There was no standing for anybody. The only thing they liked is when they heard about the death taking place with Ukraine. They were happy about that. They were happy about that. Pocahontas was very happy. She's the one that was slapped. That's why I looked at her. I said, oh, it's Pocahontas. These people are sick. They don't know what's happening in the real world. The Democrats have to get their act together. And if they don't vote, then what you're going to do is you're going to have taxes that are going to go through the roof. You're going to have a very bad time. You're going to have some very bad things happen. And people are going to blame the Democrats. And Schumer is a Palestinian as far as I'm concerned. You know, he's become a Palestinian. He used to be Jewish. He's not Jewish anymore. He's a Palestinian. Okay.
On tariffs, there's been a lot of on and off, some inconsistency.
There's no inconsistency, only with NBC, which is one of the worst networks on television, by the way. Let me just tell you the inconsistency. I have the right
Stray bullet.
to adjust.
Stray bullet.
And I was called by the automakers, as an example, General Motors, Ford, etc., the big three, the big four, and they asked me to do them a favor. Could I delay it for a period of 4 weeks so that they're not driven into a little bit of a disaster for them? They actually love what I'm doing, but they had a problem. And I'm not like a block that just, I won't delay. It's called flexibility. It's not called inconsistency. It's called flexibility. And I think you want me to be flexible too.
Is flexibility going to be your ongoing view toward?
Sure, I'll always have flexibility, but there will be very little flexibility once we start. April 2nd is going to be a very big day for the United States of America. The United States of America is going to take back a lot of what was stolen from it by other countries and by, frankly, incompetent U.S. leadership, grossly incompetent. I gave you an example of Ireland. I would have never let that happen. Impossible for that to have happened. But we're going to take back our wealth, and we're going to take back a lot of the companies that left are coming back. If you haven't read, we have the biggest computer chip company ever, has virtually all of the market. I didn't call them, they called me. And they called for two reasons. Number one, we had a great election of somebody that they want running the country. And we won in a big mandate. We won every swing state. We won by millions of votes. We won by 2,750 districts to 500. Think of that, 2,750 districts to 500. That's why the map, when you looked at it, was entirely red, meaning Republican. Not meaning communist. Meaning So anyway, look, this country needed somebody to defend it. It's this big, beautiful place that was being ripped off by illegal immigrants coming in from prisons, coming in from mental institutions, gang members, gang leaders, drug dealers, pouring into our country with the open borders. I am so angry at the last 4 years at what they've done to our country, what they've done to this country between inflation, but maybe the most that bothers me is that they would allow millions of people to come into our country that are stone cold murderers, killers, drug dealers, the worst gang members, the worst people allowed into our country. And we're now getting them out. We're going to get them out. We're getting them out. I want to thank Tom Homan, by the way. He's doing a great job. I want to thank Christy Noem, who's doing a fantastic job. This is a job that's so unnecessary. This should have never happened. This should have never happened. So we're bringing back our country in many ways, not only financially, and financially we'll be stronger than ever before. I think the markets are going to soar when they see what's happening. I'll tell you what, I'm called every day by numerous big companies. I spoke at the Business Roundtable yesterday. They had the largest attendance they've ever had. And these are only the CEOs and chairmen, but mostly the people that run the boss, the people that run the top 150 companies. 150 people showed up. Every single company showed up. First time it ever happened. It's been around a long time. The biggest business leaders. We had a great discussion. Went really well. And I want to tell you, there's tremendous optimism out there about our country in terms of regulations being cut, in terms of taxes being cut. And it would be great if the Democrats would do what's right. It would be great if the Democrats would do what's right for our country for a change, because they really are there. They've lost their way. They've lost their way. They think that people pouring into our country from prisons, jails, murders, We have 11,088 murderers that were allowed into, people that murdered people, half of which murdered more than one person in our country. We're getting them the hell out. But who would run it? Who would allow this to happen? Who would allow men to play in women's sports? And they're still fighting it. It's got to be a 95% issue. But they're on television this morning. I see this person, a Democrat, say, we should have the right. No. Men should not be, they're hurting women. They're hurting women very badly. They're hurting women. And they should not, and they're also demeaning women. But who would want these things? And everything's transgender. Everybody transgender. That's all you hear about. Now, that's why we won the election in record numbers. But very importantly, now it is what it is. The Democrats should get with us and come up with good tax policy so that Ireland and other countries can't take our businesses away from us. And he understands exactly. You guys did the right thing. I'm not upset with you. I respect what you've done. You've done a great job. But our people did a very bad job.
How advanced are your plans to try and bring some of those companies back to America? Will you be briefing?
Well, I'd love to have him back. I'd love to have him back, but he'll be fighting me on it.
What I would say, President, if I could, 1 second, just make the point. It's a two-way street too, and we are investing a lot more in America now. And people may not realise, but Ryanair, one of our biggest airlines, for example, AirCap, they buy more. The two of them together buy more Boeing airplanes than anybody else outside of America. That's a little known fact. It doesn't turn up in the statistics, but Ryanair and AirCap, big aircraft leasing company, Irish company, have done great work with Boeing and huge investments over the last couple of years. You know, so and there's a lot of Irish companies here now, about 700 odd Irish companies based in America. Glanbia, Smurford, Rock, I was saying to you this morning, Vice President. A lot of them creating thousands of jobs in America. And it's only fair. I mean, that's correct.
That's right.
That's the way it should happen. And I think it's a very good relationship we have. It's a historic one. It's happened over time. We've added value to American companies. We've increased their value. They've got access to the European market, and they did all of that. I understand where you're coming from fully. But I think it's a relationship that we can develop and that will endure into the future. And we'll change, it will adapt. And you're evolving and you're doing things.
And they've done a very good job. Now, I just will say this. But with all that we've said, we could talk about Ryanair. There's a massive deficit. I don't mean by a little bit. I mean, there's a massive deficit that we have with Ireland and with other countries too. And we want to sort of even that out as nicely as we can. And we'll work together. We're going to work together great. But the deficit is massive. Will you hear this one?
You said earlier that it was now up to Russia in terms of the ceasefire.
Yeah.
Is there anything you can do in terms of pressuring Russia or in terms of sanctions? Or what can you do?
We can, but I hope it's not going to be necessary. Sure, we can pressure. We can do that with Russia. Remember this, Russia took Georgia from Bush, right? They took Crimea from a man named Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, right? They tried to take the whole thing from Biden. They're going for the whole ball of wax. Who was the only one that never took anything from? Trump. And in fact, I'm the one that stopped Nord Stream 2, the pipeline, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world. I stopped it. It was dead. And then Biden got in and he approved it. Nobody mentions that. What I did to Russia was very tough. I was the toughest ever. But nope, they never took anything from me. They took them from Obama and Bush, and they took it from Sleepy Joe Biden. With Biden, they wanted to take the whole country, but I think I've stopped that, but we'll see. But yeah, there are things you could do that wouldn't be pleasant in a financial sense. I can do things financially that would be very bad for Russia. I don't want to do that because I want to get peace. I want to see peace, and we'll see. But in a financial sense, yeah, we could do things very bad for Russia. It would be devastating for Russia, but I don't want to do that because I want to see peace. And we're getting close to maybe getting something done. We've got Ukraine done, and as you know, I've always said that Ukraine might have been the more difficult party. You were here a week ago when some interesting things happened. I had somebody that didn't seem to want peace. Now he's agreed to peace. So we'll see what happens.
Brian?
Brian?
Yes, Thanks.
Thank you.
First, we'll congratulate you on your lower inflation core rates.
Thank you.
Gas prices going down, airline prices going
Gas prices going down, egg prices going down, inflation is going down. The peace deals are coming to fruition. The border is secured. The economy is coming back. Power is back. Greatness is back. Come on, y'all. Give this man his flowers. In 51 days. He's only been here for 51 days, ladies and gentlemen. And he's gotten all this done. The fact that Ukraine and Russia are about to have a ceasefire deal, because that's going to happen. And when it does happen, can somebody tell the Nobel Peace Prize, whoever's in charge of the Nobel Peace Prize, to give this man his Nobel Peace Prize that is due? He's been due since he did the Abrams Accord. But we're not going to complain about spilled milk, okay? Moving forward, when he does get this ceasefire deal with Ukraine and Russia and the deal is finalized, somebody give this man the Nobel Peace Prize. Thank you.
down. This is for the Irish gentleman here, if I can see him real quickly. Welcome, United States. You look great.
Thank you.
Nice suit.
Now you feel good.
What's coming next?
Ran on MAGA, Make America Great Again. If you could run on MEGA, Make Ireland Great Again, what would your number one issue be for people in Ireland right now to make your country stronger? And I've got a two-part question to that as well.
This man is so influential, y'all. Americans, we should be happy. We should be glad. We should be rejoicing. We have a man like this as the commander-in-chief who actually, anything he says influences everybody around the world. Not just because he's the American president. Of course, he's the leader of the free world. However, it's like he is just a very influential human being by himself. Now he has the power of the presidency. Let's take advantage of that and create the success he's trying to create for America. Like, Jesus.
Yeah. The number one issue in Ireland is housing, to be honest. And
we literally have a winning team right here. Like, all the cabinet members from the executive power down. It's a winning team. It's just, especially for Republicans, okay? I see some Republicans already complaining. You better chill and let this man work.
I think it was correctly pointed out. We've got to build more houses. We've got to build them faster to give the young people of Ireland an opportunity to afford to buy a house or to afford to rent a house. We have a lot of other good things happening. That's my number one priority.
Wonderful.
Are you trying to
if I
service
second part question to this, Ireland is known for very happy, fun-loving people, great attitude, many in this room right now that I've met. Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? I think she's going to lower your happiness level.
That's true. Thank you. I like that question.
Do
you know you have Rosie O'Donnell? Do you know who she is? Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
You're better off not. You're better off not knowing.
Prime Minister, are you expecting to inform the President your views on Gaza, considering that you have diametrically opposed positions on the state of Palestine? Your country is one of three in Europe that recognizes the state of Palestine. Are you expecting to discuss this with the President? Are you expecting to inform him?
I don't have to inform the President. He's very well clued into the whole situation. We shared the President's, again, unrelenting focus on peace. And he's envoying the President himself, as soon as he came into office, went to get a ceasefire. We've been calling for a ceasefire for a long time. We want to consolidate the peace. That is our fundamental aim. We want the hostages out. I've been saying it from day one. It's horrific.
You have a president who is negotiating ceasefire deals. Okay. Bringing back hostages. And you're there on your phone. This man isn't doing nothing. Man, I don't like Trump. He's racist. You in your home, in the comfort of your home. He's negotiating ceasefire deals, bringing back people who have been held hostages for years, for months, for days. He's not doing. Man, you better eat your pizza.
To do to take someone as a hostage. And I went to Kibbutz Be'eri after October the 7th in solidarity with Israel, and that gets forgotten. And I went a week or two afterwards. I saw the kibbutz a shocking thing to see, even though it was a week or two after the horror. It was a village, you could see life going on prior to the attack. It was something that will not leave me. And I've been interested in the Middle East for a long, long time. It's complex, and it's all of that. But we do desperately need hostages out, all of them. It's been far too long. Let me finish. And then we need a ceasefire. We need to consolidate that. We need a surge of humanitarian aid into Gaza. Because again, there's too many children and too many people starving and so on. Just too many. And it's that humanitarian impulse is what motivates the Irish in respect of its views. And I
see people in the comment section, not even in this comment section, okay? Just people that I talk to everywhere. Plus, this comment section is like, well, why won't Trump tell Russia or condemn Russia? He has to condemn Russia. Russia started this. Trump has to condemn Russia. You're trying to get a deal, okay? You have to play diplomat. You have to say what Russia wants to hear. You have to say what Ukraine wants to hear. But unfortunately, Ukraine is a smaller dog, okay? Russia is the big shark, okay? Russia has the largest land mass in the world. Nobody wants smoke with Russia. The United States too don't want smoke with Russia, okay? We don't want smoke with each other. Nobody wants smoke, okay? These are big giants, all right? Let someone who actually has business experience like Trump do the conversation, okay? Let him do the dialogue. Let him do the talking. You just want to talk and say, you did it. This man right here is doing what he's supposed to do. We're seeing results. As long as you see results, that's all that matters.
It's been of the view, it's been our view that a two-state solution would be ideal. It's become much more challenging and difficult as time's moved on. But that has always been our position. But it's genuinely to have people, because we've gone through this. We discussed this prior to you coming in. We've been through some of this. People hating each other, terrible acts of violence carried out on each other. We came through it. It's our earnest hope that Arab and Jewish people can live side by side. And I've met with people, parents of children who were killed on both sides, called Parent Circle in Israel, and they work to try and bring people together. It's difficult work.
What about the president's plans to expel Palestinians out of Gaza? Are you discussing that with him and giving him your...
Nobody's expelling any Palestinians. I don't know. Who are you with?
I'm with Voice of America.
Oh, no wonder.
Fake voice.
Taoiseach, how he feels about the president just saying that he would like to take back US companies, pharma companies based in Ireland.
Well, I think the pharmaceutical companies in Ireland are doing very well, as the President has outlined. Again, I think it's about that two-way partnership. I understand fully where the President is coming from. I think there's actually room. Now, we can discuss all of this. I think there's room for those companies to grow in America. And many of them, by the way, have already announced fairly significant manufacturing investments now.
It's true, just recently.
Like people like Eli Lilly, for example, who have been a long-standing presence in Ireland since the 1970s. I spoke to the CEO recently.
He's great.
A great guy. And he's announced, I think, about a $50 billion investment in America.
New plants.
But there's big investment, they've had big investment in Ireland. Ireland has served them well too, The workforce is very strong. It's an educated workforce. They delivered well. During COVID-19, a number of CEOs said to me, a lot of the plants in Ireland were the only plants that never closed for a single day during COVID. Not a single day. Productivity is good and so on like that. But look, there'll be swings around.
Thank you so much. You spoke to Vladimir Putin for quite a while on the phone. So I want to know your assessment. When you take this deal to him now, how do you assess the chances of doing this?
I have no assessment, and I don't go by chances. I think it makes sense for Russia. A lot of downside for Russia, too. And we have a very complex situation solved on one side, pretty much solved. We've also discussed land and other things that, go with it. We're not just doing it and saying ceasefire. We don't know what's happening. We know the areas of land we're talking about, whether it's pulled back or not pulled back. We've discussed a lot of the details of what has to go because we don't want to be wasting time. We don't want to be wasting time while people are dying. I mean, as we're sitting here, you probably had 2 people die on that very open field. It's dead flat. It's great farmland, and it's dead flat. There's no protection. The only thing that stops a bullet is a human body. And these are bodies that are young people. and they're stopping a lot of bullets because a lot of bullets are flying across those level fields, dead flat, no protection whatsoever. It is a disaster, and so I hope he's going to. I hope he's going to have a ceasefire.
You are using the American leverage to get a lot of political issues.
Well, I don't want to get into that, but if I had to, I'm the only one that's dealt with them successfully. Everyone else, I went through it. Bush didn't deal with them successfully, dealt with them terribly, got ripped off. And Obama was a disaster. You know, they have with Obama, he gave them sheets, and I gave them anti-tank missiles. You know that, right? It's called Javelin. You know the Javelin? I'm the one that gave them the Javelins. People don't say that. And then they say, oh, Trump has a great relationship with Russia. I'm the one that gave him the Javelins. Obama gave him sheets. That's an expression. He gave sheets, I gave javelins. So,
Mr. President, how worried should the on
He's never gonna let that javelin thing slide. He's never gonna let that slide. Obama gave you shits. I gave you javelins. You don't have the cards. You don't have the cards. Don't tell us how we're gonna feel. Elon.
Recommended Irish bill about your administration that you go round the book and send the vote again.
Oh, I think the Irish love Trump. We won the Irish with a tremendous amount of vote. I want to thank you very much. We won in the 80s with Irish. I got the Irish vote. I think I have it locked up pretty good, unless I did something very stupid, like drained your company, your wonderful place of all of its companies. If I drained Ireland of all of the companies, maybe I'd lose the Irish vote. I don't know. But right now, no. I love it. I've been there many times, as you know, yes. And we don't want to do anything to hurt Ireland. We want to, but we do want fairness, and he understands that. No, that's enough, Kelly. Thank you.
That's enough, Kelly.
Okay.
Mr. President, it's Irish American Appreciation Month, you've named it there. Who's your favourite Irish person?
Oh, there's so many. Are you kidding me? Well, I do happen to like your fighter. He's got the best tattoos I've ever seen. I don't know if I'm a big, but that.
Conor McGregor.
Conor.
Boy, you have. Well, Conor's great, right? You know, talking about Conor, but you have a lot of great Irish fighters, actually. Great fighters. I don't know what that is, but
exciting. It's exciting to hear him speak. It's exciting to hear him do what he does. It's exciting to just see his sense of humor. It's exciting to see this amount of energy in the White House. The press corps is there asking questions for hours. He sits down with them. They get on Air Force One. He's talking to the press every day, multiple times a day, and is getting stuff done fast. And is updating the world and Americans on Truth, on X, directly. Everybody on their phones, on their computer can see what the president is doing. This is wild. This is about to be the most exciting 4 years in politics. Watch.
Ireland's always had a lot of good fighters. You know why? Because they're tough people. They're smart people and they're passionate people. And they really have been over the years. So many. I think your father was a great fighter, right?
He was. You did.
Wow.
Right.
And yet, look at you. You're so smooth and so.
He was a very good defensive boxer.
He was a really good.
He was a good boxer. Yeah. He fought for Ireland. Boxed for Ireland. And
yeah. That means you genetically. I'm not going to mess around. Okay. Let's a couple of more from somebody that didn't ask a question. Yeah. Please go ahead.
Mr. President, should Apple go back to the U.S. from Ireland?
Who?
Apple.
Oh, Apple's been treated very badly. Look, Apple had tremendously bad luck. I thought they had a very good lawsuit, but they lost.
We fought with them.
$16 billion. $16 billion. And they were after a lot of our American companies. See, that's what's unfair. It's the European Union. I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming the European Union. The European Union's gone after our companies. And Apple's a great company, and they have to give $16-17 billion on a lawsuit that I didn't think was a good lawsuit. No, that's not good. No, the European we have a problem with the European Union. They don't take our farm products. They don't take our cars. We take millions of cars, BMWs and Mercedes-Benz and Volkswagens and everything. We take millions of cars. I said to Angela Merkel at the time, I said, Angela, how many Chevrolets do we have in the middle of Munich? Why, none. I said, you're right, we have none. That's the way it is, we have none. No, I'm not happy with the European Union, I want to tell you. And,
will you put tariffs
and
on
we're
cars?
going to win that. We're going to win that financial battle. It's a
Tariffs
financial
on
battle.
European cars, Mr. President? Tariffs on European cars, is that something you're going to consider?
Oh, absolutely, I will do that.
Mr.
Think of it, they have millions of cars coming in, millions and millions of cars. One of probably the largest. Japan's very big too, but and they don't accept our cars. We make great cars. They don't have our cars, but we have their cars. They don't have our farm products. We have the greatest farmers in the world. They don't accept our farm products, and we accept theirs. So, you know, things are going to change unless they do what they have to do, and they know what they have to do. This is not going to be a tough battle. In my opinion, not going to be tough. Just like when Ontario charged us, everybody said, oh, they just charged. I said, this will be won in 1 hour. And they announced what we were going to do, and they withdrew their little threat. And what they don't say in Canada is that 270%, have you ever heard that? We have tariffs on dairy products from Canada of 270%, going up to 400%. You never hear that. Canada's absolutely one of the worst. And we, when I say worst in terms of charging tariffs. The dairy.
Trump is so transparent. He has an issue with Canada, and now he's telling Ireland, can you imagine? We have this with Canada. This is another country entirely. And he's talking to this person about Canada. Like a father, basically.
Products. They charge our farmers 240, 250, 270, and 400%. Okay? Think of that for dairy product. And we charge them like peanuts. You know why? Because we've been improperly run for so many years. I had that all settled in my first term. But then, of course, Biden, you know, he let everything go to hell. One of the things we did is we took from China hundreds of billions of dollars, and I have great respect for President Xi. But he understood that. He understood it was a one-way street, and you can't have a one-way street. Okay. One more question.
Can you say which countries you might target in your next travel ban?
Say it.
Can you say which countries you might target in your next travel ban?
Wouldn't that be a stupid thing for me to say? I said, which countries am I going to target for the next travel ban?
As part of the,
can you believe somebody would ask that question?
As part of the.
Well, we're going to talk. We're going to be talking really to the European Union. You know, I will tell you this one little. We'll end it with this. So I have a property, a big property in Ireland that you know well. It's one of the most highly rated hotels in all of Europe. It's beautiful. In Doonbeg. It's a beautiful 600 acres on the ocean, and everybody knows it. And we have a beautiful hotel. And I was going to do a project there, a big expansion of the place. This was when I was a civilian, before the presidency, before I even thought about the presidency. But I was going to do a really beautiful expansion because it does very well. And I got the approvals from Ireland so quickly. They were so professional. They wanted it. You know, it's economic development, it's jobs, it's construction jobs, a big expansion, beautiful expansion. But I was told something that bothered me. They said, sir, you also have to get approved by the European Union. I said, why do I have to go to the European Union to expand a hotel that's in Ireland? They said, well, that's the way it is. I say, well, shouldn't that go fast? They said, no, it'll take at least 7 years.
What?
You gave me the approval in about 4 weeks. It was a beautiful professional. If you took 4 years, you wouldn't have done a better job. You know, everything was done environmentally, everything. There's no reason to take very long. I had everything from Ireland in 4 weeks. And then I hired somebody. He said the process will be from 5 to 7 years.
Whoa.
And I said, oh, really? And then I found out that they weren't playing games. Now think about how bad that is for your country. So that was my first experience with the European Union. And I dropped the project. I just said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to go 7 years to expand something. But I have to. I'll hand it to Ireland. You were so professional, so good. But I don't know why. European Union had to approve it, and with them it was deal. And that's the European Union. So it was a very bad experience I had.
Just say, President, you have the distinction of being, I think, the only president that has physically invested in Ireland.
That's
through
good.
your Doon Bay.
And it's been a good investment.
And I mean, for anybody, you should go there. It's just stunning.
I love this.
No, I mean, seriously. Even if you don't play golf, I mean, it is a stunning landscape.
Yeah.
Your people have restored it very well, and our people are going to continue to work with you on that piece to do it all sort of effectively and so on.
They've had a great relationship.
But it is, and the local people, my local councillor Rita McInerney texted me last week to say, tell President Trump to thank his family for the way they've worked with the local community and for the work that they've done.
Come on, yo. This should be a criteria for any president. Anybody who's running for the executive office, you have to already be a successful business person. Or whatever you are doing, you should already have some sort of success doing it. I mean, take a look at a president right here. He has personal investment in other countries. So when people talk about foreign policy, Trump doesn't know anything about foreign policy. What does he know about foreign policy? He doesn't know anything about government. He doesn't know anything about order. He doesn't know anything about policies. He's been doing this for years. The only difference is he wasn't the president of the United States, but he was giving money to the Democrats back in the 80s, 90s, funding the politicians. They loved him back then, but now he's the black sheep.
I love Rory. I think Rory's great. He's a great golfer. He just won 2 weeks ago. He's a great guy. I played golf with him 3 weeks ago. And he's really a fantastic player. He's in good form, too. When he played with me, he played very well, I can tell you. No, Rory certainly is one of the favorites. He's always going to be one of them. He's a very talented guy. He's a very good person, too.
Are you planning to visit Cuba, Mr. President?
I will. I'll get there sometime. I hope soon. In fact, if we meet, we'll meet at Doonbeck. Okay. But I hope to be able to get there.
Mr. President, does America have a future in NATO?
What's that?
Does America have a future in NATO?
Well, NATO has to treat us fairly. If they pay their bills and if they do what they're supposed to do. When I first got involved with NATO, as you know, they weren't paying their bills. There were 28 countries, and most of them weren't paying. And I got them to pay. And they paid billions and billions of dollars. I made a certain statement that I'm not going to be involved with NATO unless you're going to pay your bills. And I was asked a question, if we don't pay, are you going to help us? I said, no, if you don't pay, you're saying you're delinquent. A real estate term. You're delinquent. You're not paying your rent. You're not paying your bills. If you're not paying your bills, I'm not going to help. And everybody we took in, your Secretary General will tell you, he was very generous to me. He said, I've never seen anything like it. Money came in by the billions and billions and billions of dollars, and NATO became much stronger. Now, NATO's expended a lot of that money in fighting this horrible war, and it's too bad they had to do that. But they had the money from me. I was the one that got people to pay. The countries, most of the countries were not paying, or they were paying a very small amount. So we'll see. But NATO can be a force for the good, absolutely.
Would you like to see Ireland join NATO, Mr. President?
That's up to Ireland.
Well, do you think Ireland and the EU are too close? Do you think that perhaps, like you said,
we are very close.
No, Ireland and the EU. Do you think there's too close a relationship there? Do you think there needs to be a separation, like you said, if you can't get planning permission when you can get it in Ireland, but you can't get it in the EU? Do you think?
Well, look, I can just tell you about my personal experience. That Ireland treated me very well, and the EU was terrible, and they stopped really a magnificent addition. It wasn't a big deal from the standpoint of the world. It wasn't like the things we're talking about now, but it would have been a very beautiful addition. And they stopped it, which is bad for Ireland. And I don't know why. I don't know why it would take 5 to 7 years to get something approved, but that's what it was. Thank you all very much. Thank you.
We're headed out.
And thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy Genesis. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Join the memberships. It is $4.99. All right. So How do you rate the president so far? The 47th president of the United States. How do you rate him so far? Let me know in the comment section. And do you think the economy is going in the right direction? Let me know. All right. Let's keep
For
going.
about 36 minutes today, the South Lawn of the White House was transformed into a Tesla showroom. A live advertisement featuring the president and the man he told Congress last week headed the Department of Government Efficiency, Elon Musk. Now, this was, as the president described it, meant to be a boost to Musk and Tesla, specifically encouraging people to buy those cars. They are having sales issues right now, as you may know, and the president was wanting to help his largest donor. The event took place at the same moment financial markets were plummeting for a second day after weeks of declines, hurting investments and retirement savings. Many economists point to President Trump's tariff policies and the uncertainty around them. A much deeper route was avoided today as the White House eventually walked back Trump's early morning threat to double tomorrow's steel and aluminum tariffs on just Canada. Still, 25% tariffs are scheduled tomorrow for all nations. And there's a highly anticipated inflation report out tomorrow morning. The president spent little time discussing any of that publicly today. He had Teslas to sell.
So what is this one, Elon?
That's the Model Y.
That's a Model Y, so I have a lot of information, including the price.
Yeah.
I want to make a good deal here. You know, I do notice this. They have one, which is $35,000, which is pretty low. What is that all about?
Yeah, what is all that about? Indeed, a photographer for Getty Images captured the shot of the script the president was reading. You may recall this happened a number of times with President Biden as well. Above the president's thumb there, you can see the Tesla models to mention, as well as their prices. And below his thumb, you can see the part about how Teslas can be purchased as low as $299 a month or $35,000. It only got more surreal.
It's like driving a golf cart, basically.
No, it's beautiful. Very simple.
It's very simple. So it's literally like a golf cart that goes really fast.
Now, minutes before he said that, the Dow closed down more than 478 points, or just over 1%. The president did make a few comments about the markets and economy.
Do you and your tariff policies right now bear any responsibility for the turmoil we're seeing this week?
Biden gave us a horrible economy. He gave us horrible inflation. And I think the market was going to go very, very bad.
Well, keeping him honest, the S&P 500 was up over 23% in 2024. And as for his statement that the market was going to go very, very bad, that's not what he said about how the markets would be if he was elected. And it's not even how he spoke about the markets just last month.
Give him time.
We're on the verge of soaring markets.
Well, Trump said that on February 19th. On that day, the Dow and S&P were up for the year over 4%. 2 days later, markets declined after a monthly report showing Americans feared higher prices because of tariffs. Markets have continued to fall ever since. Today, he also took a third swing at a question that sent markets tumbling yesterday.
Sorry, Anderson.
I think there will be a recession.
I don't see it at all. I think this country is going to boom. But as I said, I can do it the easy way or the hard way. The hard way to do it is exactly what I'm doing, but the results are going to be 20 times greater.
By the way, a lot of stocks may have been down today, but Tesla's ended the day up nearly 3.8%. We begin tonight with CNN Chief White House correspondent Caitlin Collins, who also anchors The Source at the top of the next hour. I guess today was certainly a sign of how much the president supports Elon Musk.
Yeah, I mean, he was bothered by the fact that his stock was down yesterday. He brushed off the fact that the stock market overall faced steep declines yesterday, Anderson, the steepest of 2025, and since Trump has retaken office. A lot of that, I think, also is in part because, one, Trump is completely serious about his tariffs that he has imposed. Obviously, he's imposed more tariffs in just the last few weeks since he's been in office than we have seen before. And I think, when he had that meeting with the business roundtable this afternoon, about 100 of the top corporation leaders inside the United States, a lot of them had hoped that on the campaign trail, when he talked about tariffs, that it was really just bluster and what we were going to see ultimately with the economy. Obviously, it's not, because we've seen he wakes up in the morning, he was upset with what the Premier of Ontario said. He then said he was going to double the steel and aluminum tariffs that are going into effect at midnight tonight on Canada. They're going into effect.
Trump is just wild. Like, no chill pill. He wakes up in the morning, he asks whoever is around him, maybe his media team, he says, yo, who is playing with me this morning? Check it out. And the person says, sir, the Canadians are playing with you. Trump says, what did they say? They said they were going to turn off the electricity. It says, tariff the goddamn aluminum.
On all the trading partners, but he was going to double the ones on Canada. And when he was at this event with Elon Musk, he backed off of that after a call between the premier and Howard Lutnick. But it also really just speaks to his mindset and his view of the stock market overall, Anderson, and how he is not pulling back from his plans when it comes to tariffs just because of the negative reaction from the stock market. Now, with Elon Musk and the Teslas here, I mean, this was something that the president wrote late last night on social media that he was going to be doing today. I don't think anyone realized that it was going to be to the degree of which it was in the South Lawn, where he was touting the Teslas, getting inside of the cars, asking about how much they cost and just going through what they look like. But that obviously had to do directly with Elon Musk's stock being down because of, in part, his role and the tariffs and what the stock market has looked like overall.
Yeah. Caleb.
The truth is, he knows he can drive sales. Okay, so doing this, he knows Tesla is going to sell more. But the fact that he actually did it for an American company, that is commendable. I mean, you can argue it's Elon Musk. He campaigned for him, whatever you want to say. They're close pals, whatever. But don't forget, the company, Tesla, is an American company. And it's one of the companies that's like making America shine around the world. That product, Tesla, is making America shine around the world. So Trump doing this is brilliant, not just for Elon Musk or for the fact that he wants to help the stock prices or, increase the sale or, tune down the whatever going on with Tesla. This is great for entrepreneurship and for people who are starting businesses or for just everybody doing businesses who aspire to be as successful as Elon Musk, to see this happen, that a president can actually showcase their product in the White House. To me, that's commendable. I mean, you could argue about the intentions, but overall, to me, this is something that is commendable because it's an American company and America first.
Thanks very much. We'll see you at the top of the next hour. Your guest is Senator Mark Kelly, who Elon Musk called a traitor after he posted a picture of himself on X in a trip he took to Ukraine. Appreciate it. Joining me now is Senator Amy Klobuchar, Democrat of Minnesota.
Hey, Anderson.
Thanks for joining us. Got a lot to talk to you about. What goes through your mind when you see the president doing what he did today, essentially pitching Elon Musk cars on the front lawn of the White House?
So the president is now doing promo videos for his buddies' cars. That's what I think.
Okay, here we go.
At the same time, you've got chaos up,
Promo
corruption
videos.
up, costs up, and the market down. What he should be doing is going in and seeing the effects of these tariffs on our farmers and our ranchers, on small businesses, on manufacturing, and on regular people. I mean, it's like over $2,000 tax on an average family with these tariffs. And even the threat of them is creating economic havoc, as you see in the stock market.
What's the impact on your state?
Well, we are actually a state that's the fourth biggest state, Minnesota, for agriculture exports. 20% of what our farmers make and what our ranchers make, they go to other countries. Those are big markets. We like to sell things to other countries instead of the ships going one way. We want to sell stuff, and it's going to make it really hard to do. Lumber, that's going to affect everyone with housing because lumber's going up, coffee's going up. You all know eggs is going up. We also have many successful companies that do a lot of trade. And so I've always been a fan of targeted tariffs when they're necessary. But this is not targeted. He has gone across the board with what he's done with China at 20%. I mean, that is like soybean markets for so many American farmers, or what you see happening right now with even the threats in Canada. And we used to, Minnesota and Canada were like this. But when people are booing each other's teams at hockey games, he has really caused a divide here that I think is going to be hard to fix for tourism and the like. So this is bad news. And instead of doing promotional videos for his buddy, he should be out there promoting America, helping America recover from these policies and getting us in a better place so we actually work on housing and childcare and bringing healthcare costs down. That's what should be happening right now.
The Canadian province of Ontario, they're suspending its promise to add a 25% surcharge on exports of electricity to some U.S. states, including Minnesota, after Premier Doug Ford had this conversation with the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick. I want to play you something that Peter Navarro, President Trump's senior trade advisor, said to Jake Tapper earlier today about that.
Puts a 25% surcharge on electricity. People hear that in America and they go, oh my God. Okay, you know how many states that affects you?
3, Minnesota, Michigan, and New York.
And for all practical purposes, 1, because Michigan and Minnesota, it's a nothing burger. It's only 3% of New York, and New York can replace every kilowatt of that power from Canada at only a slightly higher price.
So is he right? Would it be a nothing burger if in Minnesota?
Well, at first he thought he was saying that Minnesota and Michigan were nothing burgers, but
No,
I think
he
he
was
meant
not.
the electricity. It's very hard to assess how much it's going to be in each state, but I think the key is that this was the beginning, right? He's serious. When the Premier and former Prime Minister Trudeau and Trudeau's party and the new Prime Minister are basically on the same wavelength here, when they're so different ideological, Canada is united, Anderson. They're united on this because they're sick of the rhetoric. They're sick of what's going on here and how Trump is acting. So you're just going to see long-term damage to one of our best allies. At one point, the Canadian embassy was draped in flags that said partner, friend, ally. When no other embassy would do something like that, when people were mad at our country for other reasons, that's what they had up. So I'm hopeful with all of our allies in Europe and South Korea and Japan that we're able to actually open up trade for our markets in the U.S., not close it down.
At what point do you think the economic uncertainty itself becomes more of a problem than actual tariffs?
Well, the economic insecurity is what you are seeing show up at these town hall meetings for Republicans. It's the economic insecurity and inconsistencies that you see show up with what was happening with the stock market. It's what you see when you see these prices escalating everywhere. So people have a right. I mean, Larry Summers just said, and I do not want this to be true. I want Trump to stop tormenting the economy like this. But he said just today that 50% chance we could be heading to a Trump session, to a recession. That's not what we want. So what I'm hoping is that he listens to some people who will cool this whole thing down in terms of what he's doing across the world.
Not you guys.
And that we can get back to doing some actual work. And of course, the things he's doing to the ransacking the government to find money to pay for his billionaire buddies' tax cuts, the debt that we're going to see added to $4 trillion. It's an unbelievable curve that we're going to see if this House budget goes through.
Yeah.
And then you go from there to what he's been doing to these agencies that are needed to do things like approve medical devices, big part of our economy, that are needed to help farmers get loans. This is all part of the ecosystem that is America. And that's why people are so pissed off in red districts and red states right now.
Everybody keeps talking about how much Trump added to the debt. What about Biden? How much did you think Biden added to the debt? How much do you think Biden added to the debt ceiling? Let me know. Because y'all really be thinking like Trump added trillions of dollars. Yes, he did. What about Biden?
Look, Teslas, they're cool cars, but the president is clearly trying to do his friend, political donor, actually government employee, a pretty big favor here for his private business.
It's hardly the first time we've had cars on the South Lawn. Man, here's a video of Joe Biden driving a Jeep Rubicon around the South Lawn. I mean, it's pretty common.
And President Trump did it before in his first term as well.
It's pretty common for the President of the United States to boost American industries, American-made products,
boost American
and
industries,
companies that are, employing Americans. It's extremely common. He obviously has a close relationship with Elon, who, by the way, is, I think, unfairly under attack. And this company is unfairly under attack. You have these insane people all over the country chasing people down in their Teslas in New York City. I had a friend who tried to trade his Tesla in New York the other day, and there were protesters screaming at his children.
Look,
These
I mean,
people
I
are
think
unhinged,
there is some
and they
insanity
deserve
happening,
support from the
but
government.
let's be clear that let's not skirt over the fact that Elon Musk spent $250 million to elect Donald Trump.
So you're against an American company?
No,
that's
not.
You don't want the government to support this?
He is a political donor, so it's not the limits of his
There is a
relationship.
difference.
So he's a political donor means they can burn down Tesla dealerships. They can burn down Tesla charger stations. This is the thing I don't understand. He says, like Scott Jennings says all of those things, and then she says, well, don't forget, he's a political donor. So meaning the people should be breaking into Tesla dealerships because he's a political donor.
Between saying that the big three should succeed or having a Jeep Rubicon on the front and then telling people that they need to come out and he was going to buy a Tesla or having 5 Teslas on the front or having a sheet of paper with the price tags on the Teslas, all while that same individual is saying things like we should cut Social Security.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, that is false. That is completely false.
And actually, so you want to actually know
totally
you want to know what's complete.
Wait. Sorry, what's false, Scott?
He did not say.
Who is he?
Elon Musk did not say. He did
Oh,
not.
no. Can I tell you what he said? Can I tell you what he said exactly?
Totally false.
Because what he said was Social Security is a magnet for illegal immigration. Right?
Scott,
But can I finish?
I know, but let me just finish it.
He was talking about the fraud.
Scott was sitting right here at the table when we played the clip of Elon Musk saying that there's $500, $600, or $700 million in fraud in Social Security.
There's a government report to that effect.
No.
The previous administration
he said annually,
generated.
that report said it was $150-something million each year. That's not $600 million.
Because of the simple fact that, yes, I'm trying to make sure that Scott understands what I'm saying.
Not execute any of these findings. He's finding them. He's showing them to you. You like it. You don't like it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Ask you guys a question. Does it look bad at a time when Americans are struggling?
Right.
To have the president hawking cars for the richest guy in the world because his political endeavors.
Does it look bad for the president to support an American company that employs thousands of American workers?
No.
I don't think it looks bad.
No, he supports.
Elon Musk, okay, is what these people are angry about. The fact that he's uncovering fraud, scams, and fat, and just crazy spending in the government, waste in the government. That's what these people don't like. However, Tesla, the company, Tesla, that is an American company that Elon happens to be the CEO. But Tesla employs around 120,000 Americans. 120,000 workers around the nation. So what are you guys talking about? This man employs thousands, tens of thousands of Americans. Come on, y'all.
Elon Musk.
Who do you think builds the cars, brother?
Elon Musk builds the cars?
No, the workers of the United States of America, where they build the. They're
what
building
I'm telling
cars.
you right now is the way I look at
He's not the only person that works there.
I look at the president doing a favor for another one of his rich homeboys.
So you don't like this company because you don't like Elon Musk that he supported Trump.
Tesla.
I know, but you're mad that he's supporting the company.
Let's
because you don't like the
perhaps
political.
the White House can bring Ford next week.
Fine.
And then Chevy, because when
they're routinely at the White House, and in fact during the Biden administration they were at the White House, and he excluded Elon Musk.
Yeah, and that's why.
How about some small businesses? How about Brooklyn Tea or a small black business?
Apparently Donald Trump needs a car.
Let me play what Trump also said about what we're talking about, Scott, the vandalism, the criminal activity that's been going on around Teslas. Listen.
As he talks about some of the violence that's been going on around the country at dealerships, some say they should be labeled domestic terrorists.
I will do that. I'll do it. I'm going to stop them. We catch anybody doing it because they're harming a great American company. When you do that, those people are going to go through a big problem when we catch them.
Is he wrong? Are they not vandalizing a great American company? Is Tesla not a great American company?
I didn't say he was. I didn't say he was
So
wrong. No.
Elon
Exactly.
put himself under, he's like an ant under a microscope. He's doing something that's been so needed for so long. He's just simply saying, look at what I found here. Look at what I found here. Look at the waste. Look at the fraud. Look at, and you
they're doing a terrible job.
The thing
And
that
if you
the
don't
thing
like
about that
it,
clip.
you don't have to do anything about it, but he's pointing it out. This guy.
Well, first of all, we should say this.
He's a hero.
So we should say this, yeah. The animus that surrounds Elon Musk doesn't just have to do with Tesla. It has to do with some of the things that Elon Musk does on social media, some of the
Like
ways
what?
Twitter is being run. Like the eroding of Elon Musk's reputation has to do with a lot of things.
There's nothing.
His reputation. He's doing it, and he's a
The
hero.
point of that clip,
he's not a hero.
Kevin,
Let me explain.
hold on,
Let me give
the
you
point
one
of that clip, Kevin and Van, was also that Trump seemed to agree that there should be domestic terror charges for people who were.
Why are they singling out
accused.
Teslas? I mean, why? Because Elon Musk supports Donald Trump. These people are
Exactly.
chasing Tesla owners. They might chase you someday.
So you agree
They're
on
chasing Tesla.
you agree on the domestic terror?
Purchased in 2019.
I don't know. Look, Elon Musk currently holds a position of trust in our government. He is a top advisor to the President of the United States, and there's clearly a bunch of people out there who are targeting him and his products specifically. If that's not terrorism, I'm not sure what is. They are terrorizing people who bought
Let me
an Elon
disclose
Musk
something
product.
I think I should say. My son works for Elon in Fremont. He goes through a gauntlet of protesters every day to do his job. It's outrageous.
That's America. I think that's okay.
It's not okay.
No.
It's
Let
not
me
okay.
clarify. I do not think when you disagree with somebody's political views that violence or destruction of property is the way to go. I'll say that. I've said that before on issues that I agree with, on issues I disagree with. There's a different way. But when you decide to go into the public forefront, to work in government, you do expose yourself to, we have a First Amendment for the reason. You go through, people protest.
That's not
I don't think
vandalizing,
that people
though.
should not be able to protest because you think Elon Musk is a hero and your son works there. I think that if you don't
Vandalizing.
agree with
I just
him,
wanted to
protest.
disclose.
Nobody said don't protest. Everybody, come on, man. She getting me all walked up. Look, you can protest if you want, all day, any day. But you should not be vandalizing a vehicle. You cannot go into a auto dealership and then start breaking stuff, vandalizing stuff. And then you say, I'm protesting, peaceful protesting. Come on, that ain't peaceful.
That I'm proud of that he's finding the waste, the dripping fat.
I don't think that's what
inefficiency,
he's doing
and the
now.
corruption of government.
I don't think that's what's
But you
happening.
admit there's a difference between protesting
Elon Musk,
and
it
the more
comes
violent
with the
acts that we're
territory.
seeing.
Yes,
and
it's
I
not
think that's the
acceptable.
point that Ashley is making is that
No,
he
what?
takes this job, and it's not just, okay, as Van pointed out, it's not just Doge. Elon Musk is a target because he's pushed, frankly, the great replacement theory on social media, which people consider to be a white supremacist theory. He's done a lot of controversial things in
There's
his
been
life.
Nazism
That
on
has
his-
Look,
a
he's
lot
a
of controversial
guy.
things.
He takes
so
the
it's
heat
not
every day.
just the Doge.
Why don't we form a
As soon as you start making progress, as soon as you start getting momentum, as soon as you start making a difference, they say you're a racist. They say you're a white supremacist. Now Elon is here. This man went from making great cars, saving the environment, the ozone layers, to he's a white supremacist.
committee tonight saying Doge plus 20%. Join me in saying we're not whacking enough.
Don't put me
Let's
in that.
whack more. Come on.
Okay,
we're,
well,
we're
good.
saving your money. It's your taxpayer money.
What
Whack a
I will
Tola.
say this is every time you whack something, you look at it, you come from the private sector, right? You look at it as whack, saving money, CEO, all kinds. I think of the American lives.
I'm saving
jobs. I think of hungry kids. I think of people that aren't getting essential services. I think of the people that I grew up with in Baton Rouge who need a social safety net because of years and years
You
of
really
wealth
think
disparity.
Elon's running around saying, let's starve children? That's not what he's doing.
It doesn't matter if he's
Saying
trying to
it.
do it.
He's
it
doing
matters,
it.
It matters if it happens.
He's finding waste in government.
But this passionate speech is why no one ever cuts the government. I mean, everybody says they want to do it until somebody tries, and then we get all the
I'm
speeches
not
and
saying
all
you
that.
said
No
this
one will
last
ever
night.
do it.
It's not. There are other places you could start to cut the government. You could
Like
start
where?
at the defense, but we're not. We're starting at
Everybody
Is that the only thing
says
you wanna cut?
defense.
You said that last night.
No. I said like
Hasn't
because
passed an audit. I mean,
it's just like,
these other places have been audited by Inspector
why
General.
start at the smallest little thing?
Everybody wants to say defense. Well, the Pentagon hasn't passed their audit The Department of Education has failed audit 3 times consecutively. So please, everybody can get the audit.
He knows that
Anybody
this
can
is
get the
real,
audit.
but he keeps repeating it. He wants Canada to be the 51st state. So why are you asking us to ignore what Trump is saying?
Because you've been watching Trump for 12 years. If you can't
and I don't ignore what he says anymore because he tends to do the things that he says.
You got to listen. You got to listen.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the end of the conversation. Listen to what she said. She said, Trump tends to do exactly what he says. That is it. Like, there should be nothing else. She just said, Trump tends to do exactly what he says. Listen, this is from CNN, y'all. CNN, listen.
And I don't ignore what he says anymore because he tends to do the things that he says.
You got to listen. You got to listen for the.
He tends to do the things that he says. So meaning she's agreeing with the fact that Trump is a man of his words. Because what does that mean? He tends to do what he says, meaning he's a man of his words. I will secure the border. I will bring back the hostages. I will create a ceasefire deal between Russia and Ukraine. I'll bring down the price of eggs, interest rate, mortgage rates, the economy, inflation. She's saying that Trump is actually going to get it done because he said it. I'm letting y'all know, man. Even Democrats are low-key Republicans.
The signal outside of the noise. He's bombastic. He says outrageous things. But from all that comes an interesting opportunity. In Canada, you've got the United States of America, the largest consumer market on earth, and Canada, the richest country on earth with everything everybody needs every day. You don't have to buy the country, and they're not selling their sovereignty, but if you get an economic union with no tariffs and maybe a common currency and maybe a common passport and maybe something that could be done around making sure that everything is equalized, China will never catch up. And I think that's the opportunity. So even 3 hours ago, before I got here, Ford, who was talking about cutting off electricity, changed his mind. We're in a narrative of negotiation.
Well, I think both sides backed down and they went to the negotiating table, which is, frankly, where they should have been in the first place.
It's kumbaya.
Y'all keep in mind, Kevin O'Leary is a Canadian. Okay, this is the guy from Shark Tank. This man is a Canadian. All right, so he's even willing to be the 51st state.
But it's not. It's the problem with that is one. I mean, when I have my good Republican friends at the table, the first thing they like to do is talk about the Biden economy, and I have to remember that if we had a sharp decline in the stock market under Joe Biden, then their hair would be on fire. It would be on Fox News 24/7. They would come in here and tell us that Joe Biden was asleep at the wheel. That's first. The second thing is, while Donald Trump has this uncertainty, and it's not just the uncertainty of the Trump administration, it's also the uncertainty of whether or not you're going to pass a CR, which Mike Johnson was able to do today. It's the uncertainty of what they're going to do next with tariffs, et cetera. But who gets lost in that? It's those people who have 401ks. It's those people who have retirements. I mean, it's those people who have money in the market to save for a rainy day. And so I got a great deal of respect for you. You know more about money than most. But to say that those people aren't being caught up in that whirlwind is just, I mean, that is a fact. While we're gaming out what Donald Trump says, the fact is the market lost his ass, and it's Donald Trump's fault.
You think the market's going to go down forever?
Well, no, the markets go down and up.
Yeah, but last time we
so
were here, the market
you're saying that people have 401ks. You're saying they're having a meltdown. I mean, the market will go up and down, and it will go up. And over time, the United States stock market has done quite well. So, I mean, the president's been acknowledging he's expecting some short-term turbulence in the market, but I wouldn't measure the health of the stock market over a short period of time.
Exactly. Nobody does. This is the thing that this financial guru always says, well, the stock is going down. The stock market is for you to invest over the years. It's like, you know, when you have your 401k, they're investing in stocks and bonds for you, okay, over the years. And then you get your gains. But you don't look at the stock market like in a week or two and you be like, oh, yo, I'm losing money in 2 weeks. That's why you don't put your food money in the stock market. Okay, you put investment money in there.
I'm actually measuring the health of the economy, especially over the last 3 or 4 weeks since he's been there.
We brought up 401ks. I just wanted to answer that.
But no, and I'm with you. But I can also, I mean, that is a very true sentiment. And actually, there are going to be a lot of people who text me tomorrow and be like, there ain't enough people who have money in the stock market, so it's not an issue that trickles down. So that could be another issue as well. But what I am saying is that the uncertainty, this tariff this morning by the afternoon is off. That is not a way to govern.
Well, I mean, and to the points you guys are talking about, that is directly controlled by the president. So the market will be up, the market will be down, but the president and the way he's going about the tariffs, he's directly influencing the way the market is moving. So the question is not whether or not the market will stay up or down, but whether or not Donald Trump will get consistent on tariffs and his economic plan soon so that people don't have this uncertainty.
I'm looking at this from a different...
He's making deals. Okay, nothing is concrete. Okay, there's nothing like A is A. He's being flexible. He's trying to create a dialogue to get the best economy he can possibly get, like he promised on the campaign trail. He's making deals. Like, he would say, I'm going to put a tariff on Mexico. And then tomorrow he says, you know what, we're going to cancel the tariff. So he's literally making deals on the go. So in my opinion, it's like, if you're trying to invest in the stock market, this should be your time to invest. Start planning to invest in the stock market, because once it's down like this is your opportunity, because you never know where it's going to go. It's for the longest period of time gone up forever. Okay, the stock market has always gone up. So just park your money there if you wish to, but don't judge your stock market gains or loss on a 1 week basis or on a monthly basis.
Perspective for people who actually don't even have 401ks. There's a whole constituency of people who don't have retirement plans, don't have disposable income to buy stocks when they are down, because they are literally living paycheck to paycheck. And many of those individuals voted for Donald Trump. And I don't think you're right, man. What the president is saying is causing instability in the market. Now, last week we were at this table and the market had dipped again, or before, twice last week. And it was like, well, it's one day. Now we're like 3 or 4 days in because of the language. So I think there are some people who will benefit from, probably people like Elon Musk, probably people who have the luxury to not.
And you are buying stocks. Stop acting like you don't buy stocks. You work in one of the greatest media house the world has ever seen. We could say CNN is fake news, whatever. But here is a beautiful, brown-skinned woman working here. She buys stocks. Don't think she doesn't buy stocks. She buys stocks. So she's taking advantage of it. Just say it.
Just have a 401k, but have some extra cash on the side to make the most when the market goes down and they can buy stocks. But then there is this whole set of people in middle America, that working class person that doesn't have that luxury, and what is happening to them. And prices are still high. I get it, it's been 6 weeks, but prices are still high. And the social safety net programs that they often use are at risk.
Now, one thing is true, eggs are down. Eggs are now cheaper than they were when Trump came in. Everybody's been whining about eggs. Eggs are now a little cheaper.
Killing the chicken.
Eggs are down.
Killing the chicken.
I mean, maybe they're down a little bit, but they're still not available.
Look it up.
And B,
well, we have to grow more chickens, but eggs have gotten
cheaper. They still cost more than $5 a dozen. Okay, but speaking of regular everyday Americans, one of the things that's been going on, in addition to all of this uncertainty, is that the cuts continue to affect real people. Here is the Agriculture Secretary talking about $1 billion in cuts to food banks and food programs that benefit United States schools.
USDA cancels $1 billion in local food purchasing for schools and food banks. How do you justify that?
Well, listen, I think it's really important. And of course, the left is doing what the left does. These were COVID era.
So I just saw a comment. Somebody says nobody's buying stocks at $300 a stock share. What company are you talking about? What company are you talking about? Nvidia is not $300. Tesla is not $300. Okay, so there's so many companies you can buy that it's not even $300. Okay, Apple isn't even $300. So come on, man.
programs. These were additional funds. Right now, from what we are viewing, that program was non-essential, that it was a new program, and that it was an effort by the left to continue spending taxpayer dollars that were not necessary.
Man.
Whew. You guys, it is cynical out there when we're talking about kids eating and
That's
politics.
not what that was about.
It was funny. Wasn't funny. During COVID, one of the main things that we all came together to do was to deal with the instability that kids who weren't in schools were going through.
We're not at COVID anymore.
I understand that, but if you think that child hunger is an issue of the past,
Always been an issue,
and it's an issue now, so I just don't see how you make a case to the American people, same American people that have been struggling, according to the right, for a couple of years now, that there is anything to be gained by cutting off food.
We are not in a COVID
That program is also one.
I don't think we're cutting enough.
But that program is also one that benefits not just the recipients, but also the farmers that are there able to purchase from. That's the main reason it's a DO, a Department of Agriculture.
This issue is not going to go away because it's very contentious. But when you cut in any organization, government or private, it's very demoralizing, it's traumatic, and it gets lots of bad press, as we're doing right now. But that's why you cut 20% more. I think Elon's not cutting enough. Cut 20% more now. Get your spreadsheet out. These are the names. Whack everybody, and then 20% more, as we do in the private sector every day and have done for 100 years in private equity, and hire back when the organization gels. That way, the demoralization only happens once. You don't want to cut multiple times. More whacking. Let me
just, can I explain to you that this is when running...
You don't need to explain it to me. I know how it works.
But no, you don't, because when
Actually, I do. I've done it multiple times.
But yeah, that's in the private sector. And you cannot run...
This is worse than the private sector.
You cannot run everyday government the same way you run the
fat dripping with waste government.
I'm not talking about fat dripping with waste government.
What do we have?
If I told you in the South right now in red states, do you know the number one cause?
What does this have to do with red or blue?
Can I finish my question? Do you know the number one cause for children underperforming in schools right now?
Bad educators.
No, hungry. As a
no. Let me finish.
You're talking to the wrong guy. I actually, my whole career was in education.
That's my point of bringing that up to you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you had things like the free and reduced lunch.
So the reason why kids are not focused in school, doing what they're supposed to do with their studies in school, is because of hunger. They're hungry. So what does Elon Musk has to do with that? What concerns Elon Musk with the kids are hungry? That's the government's job. Elon is there to make sure the government is actually doing their job, which clearly they're not, because why are the kids hungry in the first place? The kids should not be hungry in the first place. So he was so proud to say the reason these kids are not learning the way they should be learning is because of hunger. Hunger. We just had 4 years of Joe Biden. Why did Joe Biden not solve that situation of hunger in schools? Why?
Program. You have the summer lunch program. Yes. You have programs that were expanded so kids could actually. So I'm not arguing with you about your expertise in the private sector, but what I am saying is that a 20% cut or whack, you're cutting from Allendale Fairfax High School and Birmingham High School.
Okay.
You're cutting from places.
Alabama High School, Birmingham. You already said hunger is the reason these kids are not learning. So it wasn't Elon Musk. Okay, it wasn't the cutting down of the fat, of the scam, of the fraud, the waste in government. It wasn't that. These people were already hungry in a school setting. So something must be wrong with the Department of Education and Treasury or whatever that has been supplying money to these schools, and these schools haven't been getting food. Because why would a child be hungry when they're supposed to be learning? I don't get it.
That really matter.
I just don't get it. Hunger. Man.
There are some fast-moving and potentially major developments concerning the war in Ukraine, because after more than 8 hours of talks between the United States and Ukrainian officials in Saudi Arabia, Ukraine has agreed to the terms for a 30-day ceasefire. Secretary of State Marco Rubio.
Trump has been the president of the United States for 51 days. And now, Trump's peace plan for Ukraine just needs Russia's approval, which is most likely going to happen today or tomorrow, or at the most next week. So you mean this man, within 60 days, secured the border, took Hamas and told them, bring back the hostages or face the consequences. Prices are going down. Inflation is going down. Businesses are pouring into the United States. In less than 60 days, this man may be done with his 4-year term in 2 years. Like, he may just be coasting after 2 years because he's doing so much in 60 days, bro. His CV is so impressive.
The National Security Advisor, Mike Waltz, and Ukrainian officials you can all see at the table. Not at the table, any officials from Russia. And the world, including the American president right now, is waiting to hear what Vladimir Putin is going to do.
I think it's a big difference between the last visit you saw at the Oval Office and this. So that's a total ceasefire. Ukraine has agreed to it, and hopefully Russia will agree to it. We're going to meet with them later on today and tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be able to wipe out a deal. But I think the ceasefire is very important. If we can get Russia to do it, that'll be great. If we can't, we just keep going on and people are going to get killed.
My source tonight just got back from Ukraine. The Democratic Senator from Arizona, Mark Kelly, is here. And Senator, it's great to have you. As someone who just got back and was on the ground, what are your takeaways about a 30-day ceasefire and whether or not that is something that you think will be realistic?
Well, it would be a really positive outcome from the meeting in Saudi Arabia. I will say I don't think we needed to be here with this reset. What happened last week or 2 weeks ago now in the Oval Office put us in a really bad place from a negotiating standpoint, giving away NATO membership, giving away territory before the negotiations started is not where you want to be walking into a negotiation, and then cutting off weapons to the Ukrainians and cutting off their intelligence. We spoke a lot about that when I was there over the weekend, talking to F-16 pilots, talking to some military commanders about the impact that had. So that all was very unproductive. Now we're back to a good place, and I hope that we can get the Russians to agree to this. We don't know if they will, but I think folks need to keep in mind that they have broken ceasefires before, and we're going to have to hold them to it. So there should be provisions in there for us to do that.
Does it help strengthen Ukraine's hand, which I know you've been worried about, since they did restart the sharing intelligence and also the military weapons as well, the military aid?
Does it strengthen their hand? I think it does now, but they lost something over these days. So when I was there, we talked about, I met with F-16 pilots, and they.
That's why we need to advocate for peace. This is why we want peace. Okay, we get it. Russia invaded Ukraine. We get it. However, at the end of the day, people are dying on both sides. So please, let's negotiate a peace deal and let the people stop dying. Women, kids, fathers, uncle. Come on, man. We need to stop this. And I like this.
They didn't have the overhead imagery that they need. They didn't have the entire picture of certain things that are very important when you're planning a strike. That was taken away from them. There were, because of intelligence that they did not have, it was harder for them to react to ballistic and cruise missile attacks. So those things have an impact. We don't know for sure if additional Ukrainians died because of this, but it is possible.
Yeah.
If a Republican had done this, there was a photo op. He was a photo op. He went to Ukraine.
The one thing with this happening in the movement here, and I know one thing you'd been concerned about is Ukraine having to give up land. Secretary Rubio said that realistically they do believe Ukraine will have to give up. It will go to pre-2014 borders when Russia went into Crimea and illegally annexed it. But on this situation overall, Trump has argued that you have to at least talk to Putin to try to get to the table here. Do you believe that that is helpful, given there weren't conversations between Biden and President Putin after Russia invaded?
Well, of course, at some point you have to talk to him. But I always think we should want to negotiate from a position of strength, not weakness. Giving stuff up early just shows that we're weak. I think the president thought he was, showing some strength when they were in the Oval Office bullying Zelensky. That was not productive.
That wasn't
not who
bullying.
we are as a country. This stuff should not be done in front of a camera. But I think
the reason that should be done in front of the camera. So the American people, the Ukrainians, even Russians would watch and be like, okay, let's see what's actually going on. Because the days of negotiating peace deals behind closed doors, and then you come outside and say the other person didn't agree to it, and then the people just take whatever you say. Now it's different. The world wants to see, what are you actually saying during those negotiations? And the world watched it live. Zelensky, Trump, Vance, Rubio, everybody was there live. That's how it should be. So now, guess what? Zelensky is coming back and saying, you know what, please, we want the peace deal. I thought you were acting bad and bougie. Man, you better take the goddamn peace deal.
I think right where we are right now, I think Mike Waltz and Marco Rubio made some progress. Let's try to continue the progress. Let's not blow things up again. Let's not go back and I mean, who knows what could happen, but we don't need to stop the weapons support and the intelligence. That would be a mistake to go down that road again. I mean, you see this with tariffs, right?
Yeah.
Bouncing.
The mistake was the war starting that war between Ukraine and Russia. That was the mistake in the first place. Not preventing that war, that was the mistake. So nobody cares, okay? Settle the war, and nobody's sending billions of munitions to Ukraine. Americans are tired. American taxpayers are tired of funding the situation in Ukraine, because without the funds, the war cannot keep going. So they need the funds to keep the war going. And Americans are saying, you know what? We support you. We are your ally, but we don't want you guys to keep dying. If we keep funding you, you're going to keep dying, even though you're going to do damage to the Russians, but you're going to lose your life too. So either way, nobody wins in the war. So settle the deal now. Peace deal now.
Back and forth all over the place. Let's be consistent.
Remarkable to hear you say, though, that you're at least hopeful about where these talks could go. We'll see, obviously, how Russia responds. When you got back from Ukraine, you posted about your trip, an incredibly lengthy thread that everyone should read, I think, just of what it was like on the ground. Yeah. Elon Musk responded by calling you a traitor.
He did. What? Well,
You're a combat veteran.
That was kind of my reaction when I was flying over Iraq, getting shot at, or flying in the space shuttle. Never once for a second did I think somewhere down the road somebody's going to call me a traitor. But Caitlin, this isn't really about me and what I'm really
not just
concerned.
Somebody.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's a guy with a lot of power, a lot of influence over this government. I think it says a lot about him. It says much more about him than it does about me. But what really concerns me is veterans that he is firing without cause from the government. These are public servants. I had a disabled veteran in my office the other day that had recently received an excellent performance report, and 3 weeks later, Elon Musk fires him through an email because of poor performance. That's wrong. That's not fair. Fired him without cause. It has ruined his life, and there are 6,000 veterans just like him.
We also saw Todd Young and Lindsey Graham pushed back on what Elon Musk had to say, calling you a traitor. Are you surprised that you haven't heard from more Senate Republicans, or more of your colleagues?
I've heard from them in the Armed Services Committee in the ante room today.
What did they say to you?
Well, we're kind of joking about it. People are. I got to be careful what I say, in public about what my Republican colleagues say, but. We were talking about what he said about me, and it would have been interesting for you to watch if you were in there.
Why? Because they were essentially, without naming them.
We get along very well.
Them,
I've got very good relationships with my Republican colleagues, and I would say they don't like this kind of behavior.
The Senate Republicans don't like Elon Musk calling you a traitor.
There are a number of them that came up to me to talk to me about this. And yeah, of course, they're not happy with this.
But they didn't say anything.
I mean, this guy has a very powerful job in the United States government. He's got tremendous influence after the president, I don't think there's somebody with more influence right now over the federal government than Elon Musk. And he's wasting his time on Twitter, insulting people, insulting veterans, calling me a traitor, calling other people's names. Is this a serious person? I don't think he is. So why do you give him this influence? And by the way, I think it's really important for the American people to know.
He is a serious person? Elon Musk is a serious person? Really? Okay.
That the reason he's doing all this, the reason he's firing all these people, is so he can create some room so when they give this big giant tax cuts to billionaires, it doesn't add as much money to the deficit and the debt as it would otherwise. That's why he's doing this.
Speaking of what's happening on Capitol Hill, at least 8 senators, Democrats, are going to be needed to pass this funding bill that just passed the House tonight with House Republicans. Are you going to vote yes on that?
I'm deciding. There aren't good options here.
Which way are you leaning?
I'm not. So I haven't decided. Shutting down the government is bad. A CR, a year-long CR, ceding all this influence to the White House, this CR that was done just by Republicans. Usually this is done in a bipartisan way, a continuing resolution. We work together on it. This is just Republicans. This gives more power to the White House.
So it'll be hard
and by
for
the
you to
way,
vote for it.
I haven't made a decision yet. But by the way, a CR is also bad in general for the Department of Defense. But shutting down the government is bad for so many people that are going to be laid off. And then they're already shutting down parts of the government. So if it shuts down, what is Elon Musk going to allow to open back up? That's a big concern of mine. How many more veterans is Elon and this administration going to fire? So there's not a good option here.
We'll see which one you decide. Senator Mark Kelly, thank you for your time and for your service.
You will see.
Really appreciate you.
Whoever isn't doing their job will get fired. It's not hard. Okay. It ain't that hard. All right.
We are going to make sure that all the proceeds from our tariffs go back to support workers in the affected industries. So in the steel industry and the aluminum industry.
All right. So this is Hamilton, Ontario. I guess the workers are talking about the tariffs. Let's listen. No. I think we should do this. This might be a little... All right, Hannity. Here we go.
And welcome to Hannity. We start tonight with a Fox News alert. After 8 long months stranded in space, 2 American astronauts will soon, thankfully, be coming home, but not tonight. Elon Musk's SpaceX postponed the launch of its Falcon 9 rocket because of a small hydraulic issue. But soon, the 2 stranded Americans will be retrieved, and that'll be in the very near future. 4 other astronauts will take their place at the International Space Station, and this will be a historic rescue operation. Now, according to Musk and one of the stranded American astronauts, it could have all happened months and months ago, if not for Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. Then President Biden turned down Elon Musk's offer to make the rescue because of political reasons. Didn't want to give the win to Donald Trump. And yet, according to radical far-left Democrats, well, the guy bringing home our stranded astronauts is a villain. You should not like him. In fact, some on the radical left are calling for Elon Musk. This is getting really pathetic, and these people need to be discovered and arrested and prosecuted. They're calling for his assassination. Others committing acts of outright terrorism against Tesla, dealerships, torching vehicles and charging stations, even shooting into showrooms. In London, a group of far-left nutjobs pouring liquid latex over Tesla's state-of-the-art robot, referring to it as a Nazi robot. So why? Ask yourself, why do they hate Elon Musk? What, for giving free communications to the victims of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina when they had no connection with the outside world? Or wildfire victims in California for building a 1,000 horsepower, self-driving, an electric car that is the most American-made car in the country, for simply helping President Trump for free, exposing waste, fraud, abuse, corruption inside our government. But the even bigger nut jobs on MSDNC, our old friends, Liberal Joe and company, they don't seem to have a problem with any of the left's extremism. Instead, they are distraught that violent arsonists and rioters might be tried as terrorists. Take a look.
But then you also overnight have this post claiming that protests at Tesla dealerships are illegal. He said today he would label violence against dealerships domestic terrorism. So just to be clear, you protest a private company, you are labeled by this administration a domestic terrorist.
No, they are shooting. They're shooting bullets into showrooms. They're threatening assassination. They are burning cars. They are burning charging stations. Yeah, that would be a little different if you want to tell the truth at MSDNC. Of course, this is NBC News. But according to Democrats, if you walked into the Capitol building on January 6th, everybody deserved to be locked up for years and years and years. But, of course, the summer of 2020, the 574 riots that killed dozens, injured thousands of cops, caused billions in property damage. Oh, Kamala Harris, their candidate of choice, they're not going to stop rioting. They shouldn't stop rioting, and we're not going to stop supporting them. But if you shoot at a Tesla dealership, you blow up a Cybertruck, what, that's a peaceful protest and should be honored and respected as free speech? The left is up in arms over Elon Musk, the guy whose company is attempting to rescue American astronauts stranded in space by Joe and Kamala. And if Democrats hate Trump and Musk that much, maybe they should just follow old Rosie O'Donnell's lead. That's right. Sad news for the 12 or 13 or 14 Rosie O'Donnell fans across the country. As we showed you last night, she is no longer living in the U.S. of A. in a desperate attempt to calm her anti-Trump rage. The fact that she's been triggered. Rosie is now moved to Ireland. And this was funny. Today, during a joint press conference at the White House, Ireland's prime minister was asked about his country's newest resident. Let's take a look at this.
Ireland is known for very happy, fun-loving people, great attitude, many in this room right now that I've met. Why in the world would you let Rosie O'Donnell move to Ireland? I think she's going to lower your happiness level.
That's true. Thank you. I like that question. Do you know you have Rosie O'Donnell? Do you know who she is? Do you know who she is?
Yeah.
You're better off not. You're better off not knowing.
You're better off not knowing. Having been on The View with her, I actually agree with the president. Now, the president was in rare form today during a wide-ranging, frankly, entertaining press conference. Let's take a look.
Are you going to retaliate against me? And by the way, I have to speak of inflation. I love these socks. What's with these socks?
It's in honor of the T-shirts.
I'm trying to stay focused, but I'm very impressed with the VP's socks.
I can't even see the socks. I don't know what they look like. Anyway, President Trump clearly upbeat, and for good reason. In less than 2 months, a recurring theme has emerged from his second term. It's simple, but it's profound. Promises made, promises kept. Let's start at the border, where illegal immigration has almost completely stopped, all while deportations are way up. Unlike the old border czar, and unlike Alejandro Mayorkas, Tom Homan and Kristi Noem actually know what they're doing. They're making no apologies for protecting the American people. Take a look.
Now, I always hear all the time, family separation. Homan's the godfather saying family separation. Let me be clear. Zero tolerance is about saving lives. If we figure we start prosecuting people who violate the law and put the children in harm's way, maybe they stop coming. And they did. Numbers went down. It's unfortunate families got separated. But it happens to American families every day. It's going to happen in Albany today that an American family will be separated by law enforcement because the child can't go to jail with a parent. But we want to talk about family separation? 500,000 children on Joe Biden were trafficked into this country. They can't find 300,000 of them. That's a separation. But you know what President Trump's committed? We're going to find them, and we're going to save them.
It's over 300,000. And by the way, he was heckled on his way into meeting some of these New York politicians. And border czar Tom Homan will join us straight ahead tonight. But this brings us to yet another major promise made and promise kept by President Donald Trump. Tonight, I am happy to report prices are coming down. That includes the cost of gas, which hasn't been this cheap in the month of March since 2021. Look at this. Dramatically, egg prices are also plummeting. They are now cheaper than when Donald Trump took office. Bye-bye left-wing talking point. Interest rates on mortgages, they're also down, now dropping for the 6th consecutive week and driving a spike in the real estate market. Overall inflation is now down with a new report that we're even better than expected. And American manufacturing is once again on the rise, but don't take my word for it. This is what several business leaders and even fake news CNN are saying about the economy. You decide.
Manufacturing is back. If you believe that a supply chain bringing parts of cars across the border with Mexico or Canada 7 times, and this is efficient, this is not. This is insanity. We've got to build in America. We've got to produce things here.
Finally, we have some good news on the economy and really the number one issue for many Americans, the cost of living. So we just learned that consumer prices in February increased by 2.8% year over year, 0.2% month over month. Both of these figures were a step in the right direction, and both were better than expected. So this is definitely very encouraging to see.
One of the things that I do like is that the president is engaged with the business community. The administration is engaged with the business community. And that's a different experience than what we've had over the course of the last 4 years.
And because of the president's policies, Nissan and Honda, they were both going to build manufacturing centers in Mexico. Now they're moving them to the U.S. Apple is committed to now investing $500 billion in 4 years in Texas, building out a facility down there that will create tens of thousands of jobs. A Taiwanese chip company, they're going to spend $100 million right here in the U.S. As it turns out, the ongoing trade negotiations are not causing the sky to fall, as some on the left have predicted. Instead, Canada, the EU are being held accountable for their unfair trade practices. And that brings us to an ongoing Hannity investigation, and that's into tariffs and taxes. This is information the mainstream corrupt legacy media mob will never tell you. Keep in mind, Canada claims to be a proponent of free trade, but they have consistently levied maximum tariffs of 298% for our butter, 245% for our cheese, 241% for our milk. What about dairy farmers in Wisconsin? Should we not stand up for them? Canada also imposes a 5% value-added tax or national sales tax on pretty much almost everything imported from the U.S., and it's even worse with the European Union, a value-added tax ranging from 8% to over 25%. The EU has also long imposed a 5.5% tariff on all U.S. goods. So President Trump is rightly negotiating a better deal so prices will go down for you, the American people. Is he supposed to sit there and just take it like Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and do nothing? Meanwhile, he's incentivizing all of this new manufacturing in the U.S. And let's also be clear, as we have seen over and over again, it'd never be a good idea to bet against Donald Trump. How many bet against Zelensky coming back? A lot of people. How many people like us were telling you he'll be back, and he was, and he will be, and guess what? These countries will negotiate, and you'll pay less. Now, this was a president who oversaw what was record-breaking in terms of the economy in his first terms, historic gains in the economy.
The issue here is Trump has been the president before. He was the president in 2016, and now he has thicker skin, and this man is OG for real. But now it's even worse because he's been there before. But not only that, after he left, he was indicted. His home was raided. His name was tarnished. He was going from the courthouse to the campaign trail. You know what I mean? So, like, he has thicker skin now. There's nothing you would say. He's only going to do what he wants to do.
Economy. Look at those gains right there. Thanks to our friend Steve Moore, who will join us in a minute. Record gains for the S&P, record gains for the NASDAQ. But apparently the Democratic Party wants to shut it all down. Never mind the fact that he created record low after record low unemployment levels for every demographic. African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, women in the workplace, African American youth unemployment. Senate Democrats, they are now planning to block the House funding bill, shut down the government on Friday. This will be called the Schumer shutdown. Get used to that. Don't forget this, this is their economic plan. We are currently living under the Democrats and the Biden and Harris economy. We need the CR to fund the government. They didn't fund the government. Schumer never passed a single budget last year. He and his fellow Democrats and Biden and Harris, they are responsible for all of this. Now, Friday, if the government does shut down, this will be on the Schumer radical Democrats. It will be the Schumer shutdown.
So, in case you guys don't know, like back in Biden's term, during his administration, Joe Biden's administration, They will tell you we just had 100,000 jobs added in the month of March, for example. But they wouldn't tell you that most of those 100,000 jobs were government jobs. And this is what the Trump administration is doing right now. They're letting you know all those tens of thousands of jobs that the government said they created, it's actually government jobs. It's not like regular Americans. Okay? These are government jobs. So Trump is saying, you know what? That's not fair because the government can just create whatever and then start looking for workers to do whatever they created. But the only way you can know the economy is growing is if small businesses, moms and paps store are employing people. If, 4, 5, 10 small companies are hiring 4, 5, 10 employees, this is how you know that America's economy is growing. When small businesses or large corporations are hiring, it's not when the government is creating jobs just to, say they have high job uh record or whatever, just to show it. That doesn't mean the economy is going right. And that's what the Trump economy or the Trump administration is doing. And I admire that.
Schumer lives in fear and is capitulating to a radicalized party that refused to stand for the president at the joint session. They wouldn't even stand for the first lady. They wouldn't stand for mothers of slain children. They wouldn't stand for a young man that survived cancer or the wife of a slain officer. And Schumer and Jeffries orchestrated their silly, stupid bingo card paddle response to the president's address to the joint session. They can't stand for working men and women. They're not going to fight for no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security. The president has pledged to protect Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. The only thing Schumer and company applauded for was endless war in Europe. That was it. And now, according to Democrats and their own words, all these innocent Americans will suffer because they hate Donald Trump more than they care about government workers, and they will cause this shutdown. But, however, if my memory serves me well, if I don't have Joe Biden-itis yet, Democrats used to think that government shutdowns are the worst thing on earth. Wow. Now, with the pending Schumer shutdown, I guess things have changed. Let's remind you.
When the senator from Texas shut this government down in 2013, my state was flooded. It was underwater.
We all knew together that a government shutdown will be devastating for this country.
We are now less than a month away from a potential government shutdown.
Democrats use a government shutdown as a political tool to protest Donald Trump and Elon Musk's efforts to defund and dismantle government agencies.
The strategy is to do whatever we can to stop Donald Trump.
So let's end this little monologue, shall we, with another question other than hating Donald Trump. Do Democrats truly believe in anything besides the right of men to play women's sports, the rights of illegal immigrants over the safety of you, the American people, the right to waste hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars abroad on their radical DEI, woke, transgender radicalism? Or do they just have a constant thirst for power, using your money for their influence?
Using your money for their influence. Shout out to Hannity, man. That man right there. Talking facts. All right, the 5.
The Department of Education getting a dose of Dojempic. The agency slimming down its workforce by half, giving 1,300 career employees the boot. Trump's handing the chalk back to the states.
We have a dream, and you know what the dream is? We're going to move the Department of Education. We're going to move education into the states, so that the states, instead of bureaucrats working in Washington, so that the states can run education, where the parents of the children will be running education, where governors that are doing a very good job will be running education.
But Democrats are crying foul as they watch their beloved cash cow for union jobs get butchered. The one that squandered $1 trillion and left a trail of kids with nothing but crummy test scores. Of course, the teachers union boss is furious.
Of course.
The federal government does
Look at
not
her.
control education. The states do. Local school boards do. This is about opportunity. That is why so many people are so mad about it, because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So billionaires, kids of billionaires, they have it. They go to private schools. Everyone else, 90%, go to public schools. Don't take away their opportunity.
So let's stay on the fact.
So why are you crying about it? If it was so bad, why are you going? Because you know they're about to find out that, oh, snap, we didn't need the federal government in this children's education in the first place. The parents should be the people deciding what type of school, what type of education their kids would go to, not your zip code, okay? Not your area.
Sorry,
No,
I'm
do not
really angry
apologize.
about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people need
angry.
All right, Judge, how at this point can you defend the state of public education in America?
The progression has been downward since we got to the point where the federal government got involved. And make no mistake, the Constitution does not grant the federal government authority over the schools. And the 10th Amendment also says specifically that powers not delegated to the federal government, as in education, is up to the states. All right, so let's get that legal piece out of the way. Then what you do is you say, kids are getting worse every year. 39% of fourth graders are not proficient in math, 31% not proficient in reading. Eighth grade, 28% can't do math. I mean, this is great, or can do math. So in the end, they're going to argue that this isn't fair to the kids. This money does not go to teachers. This is about grants and programs and monitoring those grants and sending money out to their favorite educational project. And it's got nothing to do. And for this woman to fight for students, the woman who had the opportunity to open schools when they got billions to COVID-proof our schools and couldn't find one metric, one reason to open the schools. And now she's got the unmitigated goal to say, oh, our students, you could care less. Go back to Ukraine and do whatever you do in Ukraine, Randy.
Exactly.
Dana, have you heard an idea from Randy besides spend more money? Any idea at all to improve scores?
Well, no. And the other thing is, I don't hear them concerned about it.
No.
Like they're concerned about the Department of Education being cut, but as we've pointed out, and they've started to point out, they're like, but wait, local governments already do that. Okay, well then fine. Then what's happening at the Department of Education? Why doesn't anybody care? There are some things that they do, and Linda McMahon, the secretary, said would continue. For example, it's possible you could take the Pell Grant program, which a lot of people like, and say that helps lower income students go to college. So why isn't that at the Treasury Department? Like you can take the student loan program, which has got problems. You could take that over to the Treasury or the Commerce Department. Like there are things that can be done to deal with that. They also are complaining that it's the the Education Department that defends disabled students. You could do that at the Justice Department. So all of those things are possible. Our public school system used to be the envy of the world, and now we are a laughingstock in the world. And President Trump is saying we can't allow that. I'm going to add one other statistics that you guys might not have seen. Jason Riley today in the Wall Street Journal reports that since COVID, well, before COVID, chronic absenteeism, which means missing 10% or more of school, was at like 28%. Now it's at 34%. So over a third of the students in New York don't go to school 10% or more. And you think that your kids aren't going to pay for that for the rest of their lives? Absolutely, we all will. But I would say if the Democrats really want to save the Department of Education, don't put Randy on TV. Take her on. Go after them and say, you are not doing what is the fundamental right of every person in this country, which is to get the education that they deserve. Why do you think people are pouring across the border with their kids? Because they get the constitutional right to be educated here. But even that is not going to be good enough for the fate that awaits us if we don't change.
If they did take on Randy and the unions, they might not get donations, though. Maybe that's what they're afraid of.
Who is Randy?
Weingarten.
Where?
Lady.
Oh, I thought that was a fat Gary Shandling. R.I.P. Gary's not really alive. It goes back to just politics in general. How much real estate does politics take up in your life? It should only be like one room in your giant house of stuff.
No, it's taking a
but
lot
the Dems
now.
have injected politics in every single room in your house of life, including
Facts.
education. You're supposed to be able to make the decisions and protect your kids from stuff in school. Instead, they said no school choice. You can choose your abortion, but you can't choose your own school. You can't do anything.
Yeah, my body, my choice. Well, my child, my choice.
Anything about your kids, if they're being, groomed by perverted teachers. If you go to a school board meeting, they'll come after you. This is why DOGE works, because it has none of these phony tropes. It's presented as is. Here's the program. Here's the cost. Here's what it does. Here's what it doesn't do. It's impossible to protest unless, of course, the protesters are paid. Harold. But we can spot it now. You can't trick us anymore. You can't take our money and not give us something in return. So I think Americans like this stuff because they respond to clarity. And the Democrats are having a problem because they've never had to sound out their ideas, because the media never expected that from them. So they just agreed with them. So what you're seeing and what you saw this woman melt down is their ability to provide any coherent defense has atrophied. And that's what you saw right there, a screaming Mimi.
Well, usually you'll be able to point to results and say,
Yes.
well, we did this, we did this.
Right,
But
right.
they
Yeah.
can't even do that. Harold, do you still really want to quadruple the size of the Department of Education?
I do, and I'll tell you why.
Oh, boy.
So hear me out, because you all have said a bunch of things, and there's a lot of passion behind what you're saying, but a lot of it's just not true.
Here comes the bite.
So let me give you a sense, give you a guess. What percentage of money do you believe in our public school system, on average, in every state, is spent by the federal government, Judge? What percent of the? So I'll give you.
It's very small though.
7.8% in public education, K through 12, comes from the federal government. The state, on average, is 46.8. Local governments are 45.3. Local and state governments establish academic goals in schools. They adopt and approve budgets. They approve expenditures. They set the school calendar. They hire and supervise the superintendent, and they approve hiring of all personnel, including teachers.
So then why do we need a Department of Education?
Because what the 7.8% does, Judge, some of it's higher ed stuff, and some of it is feeding poor kids at lunch.
That's
Let me
good.
finish. You asked me-
No.
Let me finish.
That comes from
You're
other-
wrong. You're wrong.
that-
Let me just finish my point. You're wrong. That comes from the Department of Agriculture, the breakfast. Lunch comes
Yeah.
from there. They also help school districts deal with kids who have disabilities, mental and physical. I know these numbers are uncomfortable. I'm for what you are for, which is helping our schools get better. But what you're saying doesn't make any sense, because all the decisions are made at the local level. The reason I think the Fed should have more of a role, Greg, if I'm wrong, I'll be the first to say if we do it and the Fed screw it up, so be it. The reason all those things you talk about, Dana, so well, when you had that person on DP last week, and I made the comment about Louisiana, their schools really suck, so their reading went up. That's great. But they were at such a low level. These decisions are being made at the local level. The money comes from the local level. The only point I make, you can differ with me and say the Feds may do a worse job, but I know this, the people in charge now, our students are getting a raw deal because of what we have set up right now. I'm not saying the federal government will do it much better, but I know this, they can't do it any worse than what we're doing right now. That's why I made the point I made last week.
It's interesting to me that we have the same goal,
right,
and we have the complete opposite way of getting there. I actually appreciate your point of view. Like, it should be bigger. You could do more, and they deserve more. But then you could. I also see my point of view, which is it's not doing what it needs to be doing. So therefore, why not push it back the other way?
I think it should, but Dana, it already is that way. 94% of it is there.
Then we don't. If all of these other things can be done at other departments, then maybe this department's
because
not.
I believe Department of Treasury, we could divide their stuff up. We could divide the Department of Defense up. This is a national concern and challenge and purpose and function, I believe, much like defense is. So they have to have local partners to do it, but the federal government ought to be involved in making sure kids can read where they live in Louisiana, California, New York, Tennessee, Georgia, or New Jersey, wherever it may be.
Education flourished for most of our history without a Department of Education that you and I both know was created by Jimmy Carter to say thank you to the teachers' unions. Let's be straight about why that was.
In 1980,
we have a lot of tariffs to talk about.
Jesse,
okay?
in 1980, the Nation at Risk study came out. They had to have years of study before that to get the data.
Harold,
all I'm saying,
Harold,
and
a
it was
two-word
local
solution for all of this. child labor.
Got him.
You always nail it. You always encapsulate it.
Oh my goodness, this man right here, yo.
So let's bring in National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett. Great to see you, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. So what do you expect in that consumer confidence number? Because there have been some sort of rattled nerves out there in recent weeks.
Well, I think that the economic news that we've been seeing is really wonderful. It's way above expectation of economists. If you go back to the jobs numbers last week, where we had a big positive surprise, 10,000 manufacturing jobs, 9,000 auto jobs, and then you see the inflation number today, the lowest core inflation in 4 years, you could see that President Trump's policies are working, and they're working already. And one of the things that you can see is that it's affecting mortgage markets. This is something that you guys just talked about, because the reason the mortgage markets are responding that way is that people know that we're not going to be printing money and spending like drunken sailors up on the hill, where you've got like a really great Doge practice going in to reduce government spending, and we've got a budget deal that we're actually negotiating later today. All that stuff is moving everything in the positive direction, and it'll show up in the real data, but also in consumer sentiment. And you know, absolutely, the numbers are way above expectation. And I can tell you too, Martha, as you know, it was covered in the Wall Street Journal. I've had about a dozen meetings with CEO because they're all in town for the business roundtable meeting, and everybody is saying that the economy is looking very, very solid right now.
Well, we hope that
the economy is only going to get better. It's just the facts. The economy is only going to get better. It's only it's not even 60 days yet. It's going on 60 days, and this guy already has all of this momentum going on. So I believe this is going to be a great 4 years, and a lot of people are going to flourish this next 4 years.
it's true. Everybody wants the economy to be strong. A couple of specific questions for you when you look at this. You know, when you talk about consumer confidence, what signs do you see that it's improving? And that number's coming out. Do you have a number expectation that you are looking for there? And what is it?
The thing that I care most about is the hard data. The consumer confidence numbers can sometimes fluctuate around elections, for example, because of people whose party lost are really in a bad mood, and they say, oh, things are just terrible. You know, the guy I didn't vote for is going to destroy the economy. But then when it doesn't happen, people get around. And so I don't actually put a lot of faith in the consumer confidence numbers right around election times. And there's something, there's a big literature on this.
Yeah, but we're pretty far past the November election. And I think you're going to probably get some indication of how people are feeling. We've been looking at the markets. They're all in the green right now. You've got 62% of Americans who are invested in the market, so they do care about what's happening with that. So if you don't want to give me an expectation for a number there.
Oh, yeah, I'm still, again, I'll give you an expectation that GDP growth is going to be 2.5% in the first quarter at least. But in terms of what the consumer confidence numbers say, again, so for example, the Michigan survey was really, really not that good, but there are a lot of Michigan people doing the survey that I don't necessarily think we're doing anything other than making a partisan survey.
Let me ask you about this, because the question is, we heard Howard Lutnick moments ago talking about if you make it here, there is no inflation on that number because there's no tariff on those numbers. Can you give me an estimate, or will the White House be putting forward a plan for building here in America? Is there sort of like an 18-month, I think about the ramp up after World War II or before World War II when we were, industrially very weak on the war front. Can you project that there's going to be a project like that will not make it take forever for these manufacturing plants to get up and running here in the United States?
Right. Well, indeed, it's already happening, right? We saw the 9,000 auto jobs made in February because what's happening is the auto manufacturers are deciding we're going to have to ramp up production in the U.S. And they have ways to do it before they build a factory because they could have people work overtime and so on. Especially, President Trump doesn't want to tax the overtime. And so there's a lot of production that's happening onshore. And so I think we're very, very bullish on, job creation in the U.S. because of this. And you're already seeing it in the numbers.
All right. It's good to speak to you. I want to ask you one last question. These Politico headlines, Trump allies blaming Lutnick for Trump's tariff turmoil. A lot of 5 sources, I guess they had in that story, saying that there's finger pointing going on towards Howard Lutnick, who was just on earlier with Varney, as this Trump tariff issue makes people unsettled.
No, I 100% disagree. Howard basically hangs out in my office almost every day, and he and I disagree and agree, but in the end, we're all pursuing the president's agenda, and we're doing it with a single mind. And so I didn't think the story held any water at all. In fact, there were a lot of things that it said that were completely inconsistent with my experience. In fact, I just had a great long meeting with Howard and the rest of the trade team just today, and we were very collegially working together.
Well, thank you for taking the opportunity to fill us in on how that's going.
Thanks.
Kevin, thank you. As always, we'll look for that confidence number. We'll see how it goes. But some good numbers today that you almost feel pretty good about. And the market in the green as well. Thank you, Kevin. Good to see you. Take care.
And the market in the green. The people at the back. All right, Michelle Obama. Here we go.
Primetime's been wondering where Michelle Obama
Here we go.
has been. She snubbed both Jimmy Carter's funeral and Trump's inauguration. And last week, Barack went to a basketball game all by himself. Turns out Michelle's been busy working on a new podcast, and so far, it's been a flop. The first 2 episodes have been up all day and only gotten a few thousand views on YouTube. Half of them are probably primetime producers. But still, Michelle's spilling the family secrets, like how Barry gets on her nerves. Listen.
Barack, he had to adjust to what on time was for me.
Because he was on that island time.
Well, but, I've got this husband who's like, when it's time to leave, it's 3 o'clock, he's getting up and going to the bathroom. And I was like, dude, like 3 o'clock departure means you've done all that, It's like, don't start looking for your glasses, at the 3 o'clock departure. But he's improved over 30 years of marriage. But that was you must adjust.
Michelle says her husband doesn't really like people, doesn't know how to talk to him, and doesn't even really care.
When a girlfriend comes to visit, it's usually like, you got to stay for 2 days because it's going to take us
so much
2
time
days
to
check up. Now, Barack's come in, he's come out, and he's like, y'all still talking? He'll sit down for 5 minutes, be like, how are the boys? And the flip side of my husband, right? Because he golfs, and golfing takes as long as the first session of our, it takes 5 hours to golf. He'll golf with his buddies, come back and be like, how's X? He's good. It's like, what'd y'all talk about? Nothing.
Hate to break it to Michelle, but guys don't get deep on the course. Normally, when someone rags on their spouse, there's usually a little love. Like, Jimmy, he never listens, but he looks cute in his suit. But that wasn't cute. Did she drop this podcast to distance herself from Barack so she could run for president? Every politician starts a podcast right before they launch their next campaign. Looking at you, Gavin.
Gavin, yes.
And it turns out Michelle wasn't the only one who had problems with Barack when he was in office. Michelle says the kids were embarrassed too.
Every year we'd have the turkey pardoning. And that was the one thing that the girls would do at Barack, was to go stand next to him when he pardoned this turkey. Yes. And it was cute when they were little, but as they got older, you could see on their faces in the shots of them thinking, I would just poke my eyes out. Just right now, just get me out of here. I'm standing with my father telling these stupid jokes, next to a turkey. So by the time we got to the last turkey pardoning, they were done. They were just like, I'm out. I'm not going.
Michelle also revealing that she didn't want her husband running for president. That makes 2 of us.
Being married to the president of the United States thing.
Yeah.
that none of us kind of banked on. I mean, we knew Barack was smart and, ambitious, but, I think, but you talked me into supporting his run.
I did.
Because I was definitely like, nope, no way, this is crazy. We've done enough crazy stuff.
That's right. That's right. Barack came to me and he's like, I can't convince your sister to go along with this. And I'm like, whoa, go along with what? And it's like, I think I'm going to run for president. And I was like, what? I convinced you to not penalize him for being really good at what he does.
Host of Fox Noticias and co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend, Rachel Campo-Stuffy. Rachel, you think Barack's happy about this podcast?
Who knows?
Well, first of all, Jesse,
there's just no better proof that there's been a massive realignment. How boring was all of this? This would have been such interesting stories about like 15 years ago. I'm like, I don't care about the girls and the turkey thing from 20 years ago. I don't care about any of these stories. I didn't even find them funny. Yeah, she's negative. Jesse, listen, she's always been negative and nasty. Do you remember when Melania Trump came on Inauguration Day in 2016, and she came bearing this beautiful, lovely gift, the most gracious gesture as they came to exchange the White House? And Michelle used that moment to mock her and say, well, she complained that, she didn't know where to put the box. And
out of all the first ladies, I think every one of the first ladies, the past 3-4 first ladies, they've been, beautiful women. I do think that Michelle is pretty outspoken. She's not like reserved or she doesn't want to speak. Unlike Melania Trump. Melania doesn't really talk. She doesn't even want to be seen. And when she's out, she wants to show y'all like she's really good with her wardrobe. However, I just saw a comment section. Somebody said, Michelle really doesn't talk. No, she talks. If you go check during the campaign from summer last year till November, first week of November, like first 3 days in November, it was heavy for Michelle Obama. Matter of fact, for the Obamas, they were going hard. As soon as Kamala Harris was announced as the Democrat candidate for presidency, she was talking a lot. So maybe you didn't watch all of those, but nah, she ain't. She's trying to play cool now, but come on. We already heard what you said about, the lies out. These people are Naxis. People will support Trump at this. People, come on. She said a lot of stuff that I would assume that, I know politics is a dirty game, but the things she said, that was like, come on. Y'all are desperate at this point.
And how awkward it was for Melania to bring that over. But she's always been like that, like negative about, here's a country that elected her husband as president. We were never good enough. She was never really satisfied with anything. So it doesn't surprise me that she's petty. It's just a little more interesting, Jesse, because these two have, let's face it, been living very separate lives. And it's shocking because we've been told they were the perfect couple, that they were so in love. And
first of all, there is no perfect couple anywhere on earth. So, we were told they were the perfect couple. That's media BS. There's no perfect couple. If you're married, if you've been married, you would know there's nothing like a perfect couple. You just work it out and you love each other through your BS. But perfect couple, they ain't no perfect. This ain't Titanic.
And yet, ever since he left office, all we've seen is separate lives.
Well, she seems to be very much in love with her brother. To do a podcast with your brother or your sister, I don't know. And what's with the brother? Something seems off with him. What is it?
I don't know, but listen, liberals have been wanting to break into this podcast platform medium for a long time. Conservatives have been so successful at it. It's basically what helped Donald Trump right into the White House, showing just who he is. And liberals can't seem to break into it.
Are you saying that Michelle's doing this to maybe break into the podcast thing to launch a political career?
I'm not sure with her. With Gavin, I'm absolutely certain that that's what he's doing. She may just be trying to carve out a separate identity. I think the divorce rumors may be true. But with Gavin Newsom, it's very fascinating, Jesse. He is definitely, this is his way of trying to cover up all his radical liberal sins. And frankly, if it was me deciding, I would tell all these Republicans and all these conservatives that are going on his show, don't normalize him. He's not normal. Remember when they said, don't normalize Donald Trump, and they never let him on all these wonderful shows? Well, guess what? Don't normalize Gavin Newsom and his radical, terrible policies, because he's just using Republicans to get himself into the White House, which will be terrible for this country.
All right. And Rachel's got an interview with Marco Rubio.
I do. I have an exclusive interview en español, Jesse. Tomorrow at 4 p.m., Marco Rubio and I sit down. We talk about everything from the border to what's going on in Panama, and the fact that Donald Trump is really trying to change things in the Western Hemisphere and show everybody that there's a new sheriff in town. So
all right.
we'll
tell the secretary I said hello, and you're not doing a podcast.
Hola.
You're not doing with a podcast with Sean, are you? You guys.
We
used
did
to?
have a podcast
Oh,
together.
all right.
We love each other.
All right. You'd never say anything bad about him, I'm sure. Rachel,
Nah,
and tell your husband I said hi to.
I sure will.
All right.
Bye. Adios, Jesse.
Adios.
The Department of Education. Here we go.
One of the things people fail to understand is actually how our public schools in this country are funded. People don't understand that we have a three-legged stool in the way that we fund our schools. You have your local tax dollars, your federal tax dollars, and your state tax dollars. And so when you make drastic cuts to the federal government, we're talking about your title programs, we're talking about your lunch programs, we're talking about the programs that affect your kids who have extraordinary or special needs. We're talking about all of those things that are going to be affected by draconian cuts such as this. If we want to go in and say that, look, and I think all of us could agree around the table that we're not preparing our kids for a 21st century global economy. If we wanted to start from that premise, and sorry to use, I'm not picking on you, but to use your words instead of whack, 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 whack. If we wanted to start from that premise and figure out how we can better educate our children, there are ways to do it other than draconian cuts. And I think in places like Mississippi, places like Arkansas, places like the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, South Carolina, and North Carolina, they're going to feel these cuts a lot more.
May I respond?
Please. I mean, it's an open show.
As an individual who worked in the education system for 14 years, there's 110,000 high schools in America. The majority of them are in New York, Florida, Texas, and California. Our reading and math scores are the worst in the G7 and the G20 in terms of how many dollars we spend to advance our children.
Okay.
Why? Unions. Unions that keep mediocre teachers in place in every high school in America when we should be firing them. You want to talk about whack as our theme tonight's show? I would like to fire teachers that don't wait. And I'd like to pay a lot more to the teachers that advance math and reading scores that push our system forward against every G7, G20 country. We have broken the system long ago through unions, and this is very unpopular.
But what are those cuts actually?
What it means is
impact
the lowest paid person in America that deserves a lot more money is a great teacher.
I agree, as a former teacher.
And we can't, in the system of unions in America, we keep mediocrity festering, destroying the education of children.
Let me just tell you how misguided your statement is.
Not at all.
But I mean, I'm just going to point out the fact
Thank
that
goodness I'm here.
But you're wrong, and let me tell you why.
I'm 100% right.
No, I want to tell you why you're wrong. Because the bottom 10 states that are underperforming, those states that I'm talking about in the South, let's take South Carolina, for example, or Mississippi.
Okay, here we go.
You want to tell me one thing they don't have? One thing they don't have: strong teacher unions. So there is no direct correlation.
They have weak teacher unions?
Or barely
But
any
they
at
have
all.
unions.
Yeah, but that's not the reason these places are failing.
So
when was the last time?
If you look at 10 teachers, 4 of them are great. I want to double their salaries.
That's no question. I agree with you.
So why don't you just get rid of unions?
Now what happens if you have a quarter of shame where kids go to school and their heating and air don't work, where their infrastructure is falling apart, where they have to drink unclean water, or they come to
Send the
school
money
hungry?
to the states. That's what.
What does that have to do with the teachers? Oh, yeah.
That's what Trump
How
is
does
doing.
that fix the problem I just laid out to you?
Well, you got to fix the unions first, because we both agree bad teachers destroy advancement of
So
children.
I just have a question. Are you
What is the solution to your problem, sir? This guy, I'm not talking about Kevin, I'm talking about this guy right here. What is he talking about? Kevin is talking about whack, whack, whack. That means fire people and leave the best and double the best salaries. He's talking about, what about incentives? What about food? What about this? What about heat, air? What are you saying? We're talking about teachers, bro.
saying that the cuts to the Department of Education that happens right now are going to impact the unions?
I would
'Cause don't
rather
actually
the
think-
dollars that are put into running.
I know, but
the
you
federal
started talking about something else, but we're talking about the cuts to the Department of Education. I don't think those are directly.
No. You're cutting out the federal mandate and giving it to the state.
They're cutting the bureaucracy.
Yes.
I don't think they're cutting the money. They want to send the money directly to the states.
That's it.
Respectfully, if this bureaucracy that is in place now at the federal and state level, no matter what state you're talking about, we're doing such a bang-up job, we wouldn't have these terrible reading scores. We wouldn't have these terrible math and science scores. Something is broken, and there's one more issue that no one's talking about, and that is the issue of truancy. We've got 30+% truancy rates in some places. Not only can these kids not read, we cannot even find them. The bureaucracy.
I would not disagree. Exactly. I would not disagree with either of you all on the fact that we are not preparing our children well enough.
But you want the state to
but that's
control
not.
this?
Absolutely not. And let me tell you why. I want there to be oversight. I don't necessarily want there to be a blow to bureaucracy, but what I do want is every child in this country to have an opportunity to succeed, regardless. And let me just tell you the biggest problem we have in this country, because you said unions. I will push back on you and say that the greatest problem we have is the fact that children are punished in this country because of the zip code that they're born into. And until you can find me some parity.
Different issue.
No, it's not.
Actually,
because
I mean,
the schools sit in those zip codes.
You can solve it with school choice.
Hang on a second, Kevin.
That's,
I mean,
the
I
problem
want you
is
to
that every
address
choice wouldn't be
what Bakari is saying. Okay, let's say that you get rid of the bureaucracy at the Department of Education. How do you ensure that kids are actually being educated and that they're not just being moved
Do you
out
think
of
at the state level they hate
and
children?
that they're not just being
You think at the federal level they hate kids?
that they're not just being moved out of the public school system because it's easier
Yeah.
to move them out than to educate them.
The one thing about education you can't deny is the reading and math scores. Unfortunately, that is the metric by which we test.
But do you understand my question?
No, I get it,
That
but
if
it's
you
not
take
dealing
the
with
lowest
the issue.
performing kids and you just take them out of the system, guess what those reading and math scores are going to do? They're going to go up.
No,
So how do you prevent schools
For them
from
to
doing
go
that?
up, you need great teachers.
Well, I think there's also a concept of teaching to the test, which actually doesn't create critical thinking skills to prepare people to go out and be thriving adults. You can actually have a student go through college or go through high school or go through grade school. And let me finish. Thank you. And just be taught to the test. And so you literally. You know why? I know because I had an experience. I will never forget. I was a teacher. I will never forget. We were going to take our regents, and we were really wanting to make sure our scores. So we were teaching to the test. The same night, I went home and watched the episode on The Wire, and they taught the exact same thing because they were teaching to the test. We were not preparing my
What
students, and I
percentage of your colleagues, when you were a teacher, sucked? How many?
I think that I come from a family of educators.
Everybody
My
was great.
grandmother
Everybody
was an educator. My aunt was a
Bro, answer the
superintendent. My
question.
sister is a teacher. I think teaching is one of the hardest professions.
I agree.
And I think when you wake up every day and you say, I am going to take care of other people's children and try.
That is your choice. You made that choice. I don't get it when people say, well, I'm a line worker. You know how hard being a line worker is? You made that choice. Being a teacher, you made that choice. Same thing with the people, being doctors, whatever you are, you made that choice. You decided to serve, and then you serve it. Do it with dignity. Do it with love. Stop acting like, I'm taking care of other people's kids. You chose this job. You chose this profession. And you're getting paid for it. You make a living doing this. And then you're like, what are you? Essential worker? Well, you are essential worker, but still do it with some dignity and some love because you chose this and you're getting paid to do it. Okay?
And advance them.
You're not answering my question.
I don't think every teacher. No. Because I think that it is
They're all
so
just
easy.
great.
I think it is so easy
Exactly.
for people to be so disrespectful to teachers. It is a hard profession.
not answering the
and
question.
every single profession.
Nobody cares about so disrespectful to teachers. So disrespectful. Are you a competent teacher? Can you actually do your job? Can you conduct your lessons in a way where kids can actually assimilate and learn when they are in your presence? Yes or no? You're disrespecting me by asking that question. Nobody cares, bro.
Profession, there are people who are good and there are people who could be better.
Out of 10.
But the majority.
How many suck? How many out of 10?
All right, let me ask Van a question because
One.
let's say
Yeah.
say that everybody agrees we're not where we need to be as a country. What's wrong with trying to do something completely different? What's wrong with not just
Exactly. Let Trump do the different thing he says he wants to do. You guys won't let him do it. You want to criticize him every single time. He makes one move, you say, Trump is ruining the country. He makes another move. Oh, he's back.
continuing what we've been doing that hasn't been working?
I mean, for me, I think it.
Actually, this is the thing. When people say an incompetent teacher is still better than no teacher. Matter of fact, YouTube. I would rather my daughter watch YouTube than stay or learn with a teacher that is not competent, because she can learn stupid things from those teachers that are incompetent, especially language. whereby I could just actually put on educational content for her on YouTube and actually monitor what she's watching. But if you leave your child with an incompetent teacher, you better get ready to erase that child's memory when she gets home or when he gets home.
There's more investment that's needed. I think we need to invest into early Head Start. I think one of the hugest indicators on how a kid is going to perform in school later on in their scholastic career is how early they get what they need. So I think there needs to be more investment into early Head Start, more investment into other things that deal with some of the outside factors that keep kids from excelling in the classroom.
And the point that you brought up is really good because I want to, go ahead. Scott.
Well, just over the last 50 years in this country, the amount of money we spend on education has gone this way, but test scores have gone this way. It's not the money.
It's where,
I agree with Kevin a little bit tonight because what we're talking about is one, because of the simple fact that he's talking about creating more teachers. And so Kevin's going out on this limb and saying that we need to make sure that we're investing in these HBCUs, in these community colleges, in these technical colleges, to make sure that we're putting and investing and making sure that people actually go to school to come out with these degrees to be teachers. And so I applaud you for that. I also think it's really easy for people to pile on teachers.
Yes.
Jobs that other people wouldn't take for $30,000 a year because, teachers now have to not only go to work at your elementary school, but they work at Cracker Barrel too. Like they have other jobs.
Horrible.
That's
It is
horrible.
They have roommates.
And they also need master's degrees.
Yes.
And advanced degrees. So these are not people just rolling
These
out
are
of high
underpaid
school.
people.
Does anyone believe in school choice at this table?
No.
I do. Why not?
The problem is that you have to make every school a good choice. And school choice works in metropolitan areas where you have things like transportation. But in the rural places, if you have 100 miles and you have 4 schools,
We trap
are
a lot of urban kids in bad schools.
And the problem with that is that if you go to school choice, and I talk to Roland Martin and others about this all the time, you'll have something like white flight after Brown v. Board. But instead of white flight, you'll have the people who can't afford to leave that school will leave, and it will cause a drain at those schools.
I think we ought to give scholarships to the poorest kids to get them out of the worst schools as well.
We have a new look on how Americans are feeling about those tariffs, about this trade war, and about the president's handling of it all in his first 6 weeks of this second term. New CNN polling out just this morning showing that Americans are not happy with how President Trump is handling the economy right now, and that's even before the major market sell-off that we've seen this week. But still, on some key issues, he is seeing some of his best numbers of his entire presidential career. Joining us right now, CNN Washington Bureau Chief and Political Director, David Chalian. Thanks for waking up early, David. Let's start with the overall approval rating in this moment. Where does it stand for President Trump?
We have President Trump in our brand new poll at 45% approval. This is for his handling of his job overall, 54% disapproval. So upside down, obviously, underwater, Kate. But look at that 45% number over time for Donald Trump. In his entire first term, that was his high watermark that we had in CNN polling. It appeared in 8 years ago, March 2017, around this time in his first time around. And towards the end of his presidency, at the beginning of COVID, would rally around the president moment in May of 2020. That's when he hit 45%. He left office with a 34% approval rating in 2021. So this 45% that he's at right now, that was his actual high watermark last time around.
Yeah, I mean, it's like underwater, but better than he's done. The economy, of course, remains an issue top of mind and of concern for most Americans, likely only getting more top of mind and more of concern. What are Americans saying in this poll about how they think the president is handling all of this, with a relevant note that this poll began and ended before the massive stock market sell-off that we've seen this week?
Yes, but not before the chaos we've seen over the last 3 weeks.
Exactly.
And I think that is reflected in the numbers here. You are right. The economy is issue number one by far for Americans, as indicated in this poll. His approval rating on this issue is 44%. Trump's disapproval rating, 56% of Americans disapprove of his handling of the economy. We've never seen him that far underwater and upside down in terms of approval and disapproval on this issue in his entire presidential career.
Keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, these are the same folks that told you Kamala Harris was going to be your next president. Keep that in mind. They told you Trump was failing Okay, they told you the ballot box doesn't look good for Trump. That Kamala was going to be your 47th. The same people are telling you that Trump's disapproval rating is going up rather than his approval rating. Okay.
Look here, it's usually a strong suit for him. You see, we've had him at 44% approval before, but never with 56% disapproval. So that 12 point, minus 12 point spread, if you will, that's the largest on issue number one for Americans we've ever had him in our polling.
So how are people feeling more broadly then, not just about the president, his hand, more broadly about the Trump administration so far?
Take a look. You noted at the top, some of his scores on some issues are the best he's ever had. Immigration, he's at majority approval. 51% of Americans approve of what Donald Trump is doing on immigration. He's close to half on managing the federal government and the federal budget. But you see, there's his overall job approval, 45% we were talking about. The economy right there, 44%. Healthcare policy, foreign affairs, and tariffs. Only 39% approve of the way Donald Trump is handling tariffs. We also asked, how are things going in the country today? And take a look, Kate. 35% say well, 65% say badly, but good news for this White House potentially. In January, that 35% number was 29%. So a little bit of an uptick in the last month in the perception of people saying how things are going in the country.
It really is a lot in this poll to consider, and a lot of nuance in how Americans are feeling about their federal government and how they're interacting with it right now. And Trump's handling. It'll be very interesting how President Trump himself interprets this. We have new CNN polling this morning, and there's a lot of interesting stuff in here. President Trump has a 45% approval rating, a 54% job disapproval. That matches, in terms of approval, that matches his highest rating of his first term. And he's getting big marks in areas like handling of immigration. 51% approve of what he's doing. And that's 7 points higher than any point in his first term. And then, here's the but, then you look at the issue that people care still most about, the economy. 56% disapprove, worse than any point in his first term. If you were still sitting in the White House and you see this, what's your take from that?
I think there's several points to kind of break down. One is that the president's greatest foil has been the Democrats and their ineffectiveness to have a message. And again, when you see like the State of the Union speech and Al Green shaking a cane like an angry old man, I think it gives the president much of an advantage. I think some of those numbers are reflective of the fact that he's a tremendous contrast to the Joe Biden presidency. They see an energetic president taking action. I think they elected him on two principal issues, the border and the economy. So the border, I think they like seeing it. I think when Democrats take positions in support of the Columbia University protester, I think it continues to elevate that issue that helps Trump. The economy is a big warning sign. I don't entirely agree with Karen. I think he has more running room because he still has such control over the party, and members are concerned about being primaried if Donald Trump goes against them. And that gives him a lot more latitude. But I do think it's a warning sign because that's what they elected him on in large part, border and economy. And if they lose confidence the way he's handling the economy, it's going to continue to drive his numbers down.
Yeah, I mean, just look at this polling number and look at it through the lens of a Democrat, Karen. You see this, and Democrats should take what from it?
They should be on offense on the economy. There is no reason to be hemming and hawing, which we're seeing from some of my Democrats. They need to be on offense. They need to be talking about the fact that, again, this chaos that we're seeing is created by Republicans, created by Trump, created by Musk, or compounded by Musk. And that people are starting to say, hey, this is not what we thought we were getting with this second Trump term. And they need to be bullish about it and also to stand up to the Republicans and say, we will not accept this CR because you're not being honest with the American people about what it really does. It actually would give more power and authority to Trump and Musk to do more damage, to create more chaos. Not to mention, I'll just say, because I'm here in D.C., the devastating impacts of a $1 billion cut here in Washington, where we already don't have enough police officers and firefighters. So I think there's no reason for them not to stand up today, the Senate. This is for you, Chuck Schumer. And be bullish about the fact that this economic chaos has to stop, and they've got to use the little bit of leverage that they have today to try to do something about it.
Mark Short's thought bubble right now on the CR is like my favorite thing right now. Who gets blamed? I'm sorry, Chris, my EP.
He's like, please, I know.
They take Karen's advice. The Democrats get blamed for a shutdown. That'll be stopping it.
We'll find out. We may find out soon enough, friends. Karen, it's great to see you,
Republicans
Mark.
control everything.
Elena Treen is at the White House for us.
Everybody's doing great, okay? The press, they're feeling good because they have content. This man is giving content every single day. He's talking to the press corps. These guys are going on Air Force One, talking to them. They're asking anything they want to ask. You think Biden can do what Trump is doing? I don't think so.
Economists are they're more than alarmed this morning about what this might mean. But the president, how is he reacting, seeing what happened with the markets yesterday and hearing from some of the top economists to say, hey, if this keeps going, we could find ourselves in a recession?
Look, the president seems to be very dug in on tariffs. Not only are we hearing that in some of his public comments, but that's what I'm hearing as well privately in my conversations with White House officials and those close to him advising him on some of this policy. The president really believes that the United States is being taken advantage of, Sarah. He believes that tariffs are a negotiating tactic, and he acknowledges that, obviously, the stock market has been on a downward spiral for the last 2 days. He's it's really erased all the gains we've seen since the president was elected in November. But he believes that if you stick with him, things will, go better moving forward. And he even warned yesterday that tariffs could perhaps go even higher. But I want you to take a listen to what he said about the stock market, as he's really been kind of continuing to brush off some of that sharply, lower numbers that we've been seeing. Take a listen.
Markets are going to go up and they're going to go down.
Yeah.
But you know what? We have to rebuild our country.
Sarah, there you have it. He said they're going to go up, they're going to go down. We have to rebuild our country. That is really, again, what I'm hearing behind closed doors, why the president is so dug in on this. But one thing that's been really interesting and what I'm picking up on, I know some other reports have said this as well, is not only with Wall Street, but also those on the other end of Pennsylvania Avenue in Congress, a lot of people raising the alarm, not only about, Trump's tariff policy, a lot of that is controversial, but also questioning whether there is a bigger strategy here. What is the long-term goal on this, and how do they really see the market stabilizing in the long term? Now, this was, of course, a question as well that many of those business leaders that the president met with yesterday had questions of. This is what one of them told our CNN's Jeff Zeleny. They said, quote, there was no new clarity or certainty on what that broader strategy is. Now, we are going to hear from the president today. I'm wearing green. We're going to hear from as well when he meets with Ireland's Taoiseach, essentially their prime minister. I think you can expect a lot of questions on this because, again, the markets are going down. People are seeing their 401ks on a downward spiral as well. A lot of concerns and a lot of questions, and not a lot of clarity from this White House other than that they believe in tariffs and they plan to continue moving forward with them.
Yeah. Shout out to CNN. Jesse Litnick. Chile message. What is that?
President Trump's assault on the judiciary by attacking judges and even their families when their rulings don't go his way is well documented. But now as president, he's taking an even more aggressive approach, going after law firms that represent clients like that the president doesn't like. The first to feel his wrath is a law firm which represents former special counsel Jack Smith. Smith, as you know, is now a private citizen, but as special counsel with the Department of Justice, he brought criminal charges against Trump in 2 cases. Smith is expecting to be the subject of a number of investigations by Republicans in Congress for which he'll need legal help. Now, in late February, the president signed a memo suspending the active security clearances of lawyers from a firm called Covington and Burling who represent Jack Smith.
Hold it. This is a good one. Is everybody listening? Deranged Jack Smith. We're going to call it the Deranged Jack Smith signing or bill. Go ahead.
In some cases, when sensitive materials involved, attorneys need security clearances to adequately represent a client. For instance, Donald Trump's attorneys had security clearances working on the classified documents case against him and other cases as well. If Mr. Smith's attorneys can have access to sensitive documents, the question is, can he be adequately represented in national security matters by them? According to legal scholars, it could also violate the First Amendment's right to free speech, the Fifth Amendment's guarantee of due process, and the Sixth Amendment's right to effective assistance of counsel. And it's not just one firm that's been targeted so far. Another firm, Perkins Coie, it's called, they've been targeted. They represented Hillary Clinton's campaign when she ran against Trump, and they hired an opposition research firm, which ended up producing the now infamous Steele dossier. Lawyers at Perkins Coie are currently working on a case challenging Trump's ban on trans service members, and the president has also attacked them for having internal diversity initiatives. 4 days ago, that law firm's security clearances were also suspended, and they've been banned from entering some federal buildings.
This is an absolute honor to sign. What they've done is it's just terrible. It's weaponization. You could say weaponization against a political opponent. And you're looking at about 15 different firms?
That or more, sir, yes.
15 firms or more. The question left in the air, of course, is who's next? And that's a question the president likely wants law firms asking themselves. These actions against two prominent firms certainly send a chilling message to other firms about taking on cases that President Trump might not like. Even if individual lawyers may be brave enough to incur the wrath of the most powerful man in the world, the other attorneys at their firm may not be. And the other clients of these firms may cancel their business because they're afraid the president will then punish their companies just by using one of these law firms. That, it seems, is not an accidental byproduct of the president's actions. It sounds like that's the point. Yesterday, in an interview on Fox Business, the president threatened more firms will be targeted.
We have a lot of law firms that we're going to be going after because they were very dishonest people. They were very, very dishonest. I could go point after point after point, and it was so bad for our country. And we have a lot of law firms that we're going after.
Well, joining me now is former Ambassador Norm Eisen. He was special counsel to House Democrats in President Trump's first impeachment, is now the executive chair of the State Democracy Defenders Fund, who have a number of pending legal motions against the Trump administration. And just this afternoon, according to this posting by Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, Norm's security clearance was revoked per directive of the president. I'm also joined by Erin Mulvaney with the Wall Street Journal, whose latest piece is titled "Fear of Trump Has Elite Law Firms in Retreat." So, Erin, can you just walk us through your reporting? What are attorneys at these firms saying, probably not on the record, but about what's going on?
I think chill is definitely the right word that you had at the top of the segment. I think there's just a fear of any kind of retaliation, maybe even not of what happened to the first two law firms that you mentioned. They're fearful of losing clients. They're fearful of retaliation against their clients.
Because other clients who don't have a case against the president or some company that has this firm representing them, they might be fearful that, well, the president will go after this company because their attorneys he doesn't like.
Yeah, exactly. I think that, and we're also talking about these types of firms are the biggest, the most elite. They represent the biggest companies in the world too. So they go hand in hand. And I think that's why it's a bit alarming that, law firms can step back. Everyone can get a lawyer of any kind. And yeah, and to some extent they do choose their clients. Well, they do choose their clients, but it's a matter of, but they're just doing their job. That's what the lawyers would say. But the idea that Trump is willing and will retaliate against them if there's a perceived notion that they're coming after him or enemies, I think that's what's alarming.
Yeah.
Even the biggest firms out there.
And
wait, I don't get it. Is he supposed to just sit back and say, you know what, attack me, I'll take it because I'm Batman? What? He's supposed to retaliate. He has to retaliate. What do you expect? Well, because we're lawyers, we're doing our jobs. Yeah, he's the president. He's doing his job as well. Do your job and let him do his job.
Norm, I mean, you're involved in multiple cases challenging the administration. We mentioned your security clearance getting pulled. But by the way, does anyone notify you, or did you just hear that through Tulsi Gabbard's, announcement?
My phone started blowing up. Look at Tulsi Gabbard's tweet. And Anderson, President Trump had said he was going to do this several weeks ago, right after we secured a court order in one of our cases at Democracy Defenders, protecting thousands of FBI agents from retaliation for working on January 6 cases. So you really have to see this as a kind of a backhanded compliment. We're working on over a dozen cases, and we've gotten those orders in many of the cases in response to illegal behavior by the administration. And this is more retaliation. Plenty of lawyers are going to stand up to it.
And Aaron, in terms of the retaliation, it's revoking security clearances. What else?
There are also firms that work with big companies that have government contracts, and Trump is asking to investigate those government contracts and potentially revoke them. Which
Wow,
is
so not
just
related to the
lucrative.
case they're working on, just any government contract this firm may have.
Right. I mean, if you read the executive orders, it's very clear that the firms are being targeted, not the work they're doing necessarily. Even the one about Jack Smith is about the firm being the problem.
Wow.
And the second was much more sweeping. It called for investigations into DEI practices, revoking of government contracts. You mentioned access to federal buildings. It's written a little broadly, so it's not clear if that means federal courthouses. And the second law firm, Perkins Coie, has said that they see it as patently unlawful, the move, and they will challenge.
And Norm, I mean, for you, this feels like, I mean, administrations have had contentious relationships, you know, with law firms in the past, but this feels like they're pulling levers which have not been pulled before.
Anderson, it's illegal. It's a violation of the Constitution. The first time they try to keep me out of a courthouse will be right in front of a judge within minutes. I guarantee you that judge will have me in the courthouse. You have to understand it in a pattern, Anderson. Donald Trump said he was going to be a dictator on day one. The essence of dictatorship is breaking the law, and these unconstitutional
What's illegal
actions,
about this?
well, it violates First Amendment, freedom of speech. There's no due process at all. It cuts off my client's right to counsel if I need, and I do, security clearances to represent clients. This won't hold up in court, just like so many others of Donald Trump's actions. Illegal spending freezes, Mr. Elon Musk and Doge pawing over personal data, the firing of those FBI agents. I'll be in court this week on an illegal firing of tens of thousands of probationary employees. We've gotten order after order from the courts, myself and our partners, cutting that off. Yes, you need lawyers and law firms to bring those cases, but the retaliation won't work. Perkins Coie got one of the best firms in the country to represent them. And I think you're going to see some law firms will be scared, but many attorneys are going to take this as a backhanded compliment. Anderson, you know what? I'm doubling down, and so are my colleagues at Democracy Defenders.
I heard a number of firms turn down, I think Perkins Coie initially, but they do have a very good law firm now representing them. Ambassador Norm Eisen, appreciate it. Aaron Mulvaney as well. Thanks so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. It is your boy, Genesis. Everybody, double tap your screen twice. Double tap your screen twice to give this video a like. And join the membership. It is $4.99. Support the channel. Support the channel. It is $4.99 to be a member of this channel. And do you want to keep going? You guys want to keep going? Elon Musk used to be the dam's hero, according to Jess.
Today, inflation dropped to its lowest level in 3.5 years. Illegal border crossings are now down to about zero. Gas is back down to below $3 a gallon. Mortgage rates have dropped for 6 straight weeks. Jobs are up. Unemployment's down. $2 trillion in private money is being invested in America. DEI is dead. The government's more efficient. And Ukraine's agreed to a ceasefire. But Bernie Sanders says he's scared.
Here we have it.
These are, the scariest times in my lifetime. That's all. I mean, I think that's objectively the truth. He is now trying to end what the founding fathers were pretty smart about, creating a form of government where there were checks and balances, a legislative body, an executive body, and a judiciary.
What is Bernie, like 100? He's lived through the Cuban Missile Crisis, 9/11, COVID, and he's scared of the golden age? No. When Hillary told him to drop out or else, that was scarier. But even scarier is being stranded in outer space. Biden left 2 astronauts floating around up there. Elon offered to save them last year, but Biden said no. He didn't want Musk getting credit for the rescue, so he just let him hover. And now, 9 months later, Elon's sending a rocket up to bring him home. But Bernie's mad Musk has the money for the rocket.
You know, it is not just they want to give tax breaks to billionaires and cut programs for working people.
All right,
Frankly,
here we go.
That's happened before. Yeah. But you combine that with the power of the oligarchy in general. You combine that with Mr. Musk owning Twitter and able to send out his messages to hundreds of millions of people. It's not only the power of money, it's also combined with that, the movement toward authoritarianism.
Elon saving stranded astronauts with SpaceX, saving Ukraine with Starlink, and saving free speech with X. But Bernie's mad Musk's megaphone is bigger than his. It's not the size of the megaphone, Bern. It's what you say into it. And what are these programs for working people Musk's cutting? Could it be the $750,000 to examine social networks among Black and Latino sexual minority men in New Jersey? Or $700,000 to study cannabis use among sexual minority gender diverse individuals? $100,000 for assessing sexual health for gay Latinos in the agriculture community? $600,000 for teen pregnancy prevention for trans boys. Thank God. No more boys are getting pregnant. It's an epidemic. Democrats used to be down with Doge.
Yes, you do have to cut some programs. I think there's waste out there, though I think there are programs that can and should be cut.
Again, we all agree we have to get rid of waste, fraud, abuse, duplication, obsolescence, and the rest. The GAO has given us a blueprint for that, and we subscribe to that. We all agree that we must reduce the deficit.
There's tremendous waste in government, and I think any Democrat who ignores the lessons, the lessons of those who voted, the lessons of the last election, makes a mistake. The people did want government to cut out the waste and to shrink.
Everything Trump does, Democrats must oppose. Got to oppose Doge. They must restore teen boy pregnancy prevention. Trump made Democrats hate EVs. Getting behind the wheel of a Tesla, you're now Adolf.
All of that. And you end it with, I love Tesla. But you know what? It's an honest mistake. He just mixed up the two words most associated with Elon Musk, Tesla and Hitler.
Adam Schiff's whip.
Tesla. This is why the Republicans are in charge. Stupid conversations like that. Tesla, Hitler. What is that? Somebody get that guy out of there.
Now he says it's his biggest regret, not the Russia hoax, the car. Senator Mark Kelly's putting his Tesla up for sale. Democrats are like teenage girls. If they don't like you and you like something, then they can't like it. Even if they liked it before, now they have to hate it. Teslas are getting their tires slashed and spray painted with swastikas. And liberals are torching Tesla charging stations and hurling Molotov cocktails at dealerships. But the media says that Molotov cocktail was mostly peaceful.
Overnight, have this post claiming that protests at Tesla dealerships are illegal. He said today he would label violence against dealerships domestic terrorism. So just to be clear, you protest a private company, you are labeled by this administration a domestic terrorist. You show up at the U.S. Capitol on January 6th with the intent to overturn a fair and free election.
They're not protesting peacefully. They're burning down Tesla auto dealerships. They're breaking the windows of a Tesla cars. They're harassing people who drive a Tesla car. What are you guys talking about?
And you got a pardon.
47 went green, bought an electric car. He's saving the planet. That's what they tell us. Nope. It made Chuck sick.
Just turns your stomach at what they do to help one another. What do you think Americans think of that when they see Trump pushing Elon Musk, the richest man in the world's Teslas? A man born with a limousine, who for the rest of his life will be driven by Secret Service, was supposedly buying a new car and checking out his EV options. What a joke.
He turned the White House into a car show trying to help put a floor under the plummeting stock value of Elon Musk's Tesla.
You know what turns my stomach? Watching Schumer grill. An American president buys an American car that liberals love, and Democrats don't like it. Shady Kazakhstanis gave the vice president's son an electric car. He didn't like it, so he turned it in, and the same shady Kazakhstani bought him a Porsche. That didn't turn Chuck's stomach then, and neither did Joe flying Hunter to China and coming back with bags of cash. And Coons thinks it's suspect to turn the White House into a car show.
This was President Joe Biden. Of course.
The Wrangler Biden's promoting isn't even American. The Dutch own it. Obama and Biden let Jeep get sold overseas, and he's driving a foreign car around the White House lawn. During an EV summit, he invited every electric car maker except Tesla. Joe snubbed Musk, the largest EV maker in the world. And then he sued Musk for not hiring migrants. The Democrats and Musk had a bad breakup. You know how these are. They used to be in love.
We're going to try to see if we can accelerate this kind of collaboration through what we put forward. So it's the right plan. Good. Well, congratulations. This is terrific. Thank you very much. How's the car doing? It's doing great, actually. Yeah. How do you split your time between car and rocket?
Well, it's usually about 50-50. We should have the sedan on the roads in 2 years. And it'll be the best car on the roads by far.
Musk didn't change. Democrats did.
Musk never changed. He's always been that person, okay? He's always been the person who is optimistic about the future. You could tell from the way he was interacting with Obama. But Democrat didn't take him seriously.
He's always believed in free speech and free enterprise. He didn't make his money shorting the pound like Soros so we could use it to open our border and prisons. He's making cars that liberals say save the planet and trying to put rockets on other planets. The progressives hate that Musk's making progress. And they hate that he's young and fun and not in the shadows like their sugar daddy Soros. Again, like a teenage girl, they blackballed Elon and then he became even more popular. And now they hate him, but they really hate themselves for losing him.
Forgive me, but what's his end game? I mean, I know look, he wants to be the first trillionaire in the world. I mean, what's his end game here?
Well, you know it. You guys, you created him, Governor. I mean, you
By
guys.
the way, in many respects, California did. It was our regulatory process and our subsidies to create this market. You're 100% right. I think you're right.
Democrats loaned Musk billions to make green cars, and he actually did it. Unlike all the other dumb loans Democrats gave out to all the green companies that went belly up, like Solyndra and Sonova and that stupid electric bus company that Kamala's always yapping about. All Democrats do once they get into power is hand wealthy people money. They bail out banks, give donors green contracts. But suddenly, some wealthy guys go into government to shut down the fraud and handouts, and the media is mad.
President Trump is surrounded by the wealthiest cabinet, the wealthiest administration in modern U.S. history. Does this concern you?
I don't think it's so much about their wealth.
I mean, you're only allowed to be wealthy in Congress. Can't be wealthy in the cabinet. We know how Elon made his money. How'd Nancy? Elon makes cars and rockets. What does Hunter make? No one wants his paintings now that Daddy's back in Delaware. What a coincidence. So it seems like the Democrats finally settled on a message to beat Trump. It's taken them long enough. Republicans are for the rich. Where have I heard that before? Oh, they've been saying it for 100 years. Maybe it used to work, but now the Democrats are the party of the rich. Billionaires donated more to Kamala than Trump. She outraised him 2-1, and he still cleaned her clock. Under Joe Biden, income inequality increased, and the Democrats and their shutdowns created the biggest transfer of wealth in world history. Zuckerberg, Musk, Bezos, Gates made more money under Biden than ever. And that's great. We're all for making money. It's just not great when the rest of the country can't get ahead. Liberals used to love these billionaires until they switched sides.
You guys you loved all the oligarchs, and particularly Elon, until they flipped. And remember, all the rest of these oligarchs were all progressive Democrats until 11 p.m.
I don't know if they're progressive. I refer to them as libertarian, and I know these guys intimately. I've known them for decades.
If Trump's doing all these favors for billionaires, why are the billionaires losing money under him? Well, because he's fighting a trade war to rebalance the economy to save the American worker. Elon has lost $100 billion since he teamed up with Trump. And he says it's worth it if he can stop the country from going bankrupt.
So it's a call to action. You're hearing a call to action.
Yeah.
You giving up your other stuff? I mean, how are you running your other businesses?
With great difficulty. Yeah, I mean.
But there's no turning back, you're saying?
I'm just here trying to make government more efficient, eliminate waste and fraud, and so far we're making good progress.
The party's flipped. Democrats are for the rich. The Trump Republicans are for everybody. And that has the Democrats rattled. The America First movement forced Democrats into hating peace, progress, and making things in America. They're even against black kids with cancer who want to grow up to be cops.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want us to go back to the White House. Check this out. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, join the channel memberships, and let's keep going. All right, this is straight from the White House.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, accompanied by the Taoiseach of Ireland and Mrs. Martin.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. It's a great honor. Great people. A lot of Irish friends right there. A lot of very, very good Irish friends. But thank you all for being here. Even though it's still a few days away, I want to be the first to wish each and every one of you a very happy St. Patrick's Day. It's a big day. And as a lifelong New Yorker, nobody knows the Irish better than me. I know too much about the Irish. So let me begin by saying I really do. I love the Irish. I've had great, great friends over the years, and I love the Irish, special people. And I've been to Ireland many times. I have a lot of property in Ireland, actually, and it does very well, so I like it. If it didn't do well, I wouldn't like it. But I'm always struck by the awesome beauty of the Emerald Isle and the strength and warmth and grit and grace of the Irish people. Very few people can compare. Today, we're delighted to welcome Taoiseach Micheál Martin, a very special man doing incredibly well and very popular, and his beautiful wife, Mary. And I want to thank you both for being here, the first official visit to the White House. So thank you very much for being here with us. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to extend a special welcome to Ireland's ambassador to the United States, Geraldine Boom. And you, where are you, Geraldine? Here you are, Geraldine Byrne Nation. And you're going to be working with this gentleman right here. He's a very great golfer, one of the best golfers that you'll ever see. He'll be playing golf all day long he'll take clients out to play golf, but he's won many, many club championships. And Ed Walsh, congratulations. Great, great, going to be great. We're grateful also to be joined by the members and many members of our cabinet, proud Irish Americans, Sean Duffy and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Where's Robert F. and Sean? Hi, Bobby. I knew that, let's see, Duffy we knew and Kennedy we knew. Some of you I wasn't as sure. Pam Bondi, I don't know. Are you Irish? Are you Irish? I don't know, with that name, I can't figure that out. She's doing a hell of a job, I'll tell you. That Attorney General Pam Bondi, Secretary of Energy, Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright. And you're doing a good job. You see the oil is going down. It's going down. $65 a barrel today. You're doing better than I even thought, because everything else is going to be coming down with it. All those expensive goods that you had to suffer with for 4 years are all coming down. Energy leads the way. Thank you. Good job you're doing with our friend, right? HUD Secretary Scott Turner. You're not Irish, Scott. Where's Scott? Give me a break, Scott. You know, I want to be politically correct and not mention it, but I'm going to say, how much Irish do you have in you, Sean? I don't know. He said 0. That's right. Secretary of Veterans Affairs, Doug Collins. Thank you, Doug. You're Irish. EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. He's one of the most important guys. He's going to get those approvals. A nuclear power plant will take less than 2 weeks to get approved, right, Lee? They used to take 15 years. We're going to do it in a couple of weeks. U.S. Trade Representatives Jamieson Greer. Where are you, Jamieson? Jamieson Greer. Thank you, Jamieson. And I also, there's a very special man here that I've been watching a long time. One of the greatest dancers ever in the world. Michael Flatley is around here someplace. There's nobody like this guy. Great, Michael. I've watched him, Radio City, I've watched you a lot, Michael. His feet, the way they moved. I don't know how the hell you do it. Can you still dance like that, or is Father Time caught up? You know, Father Time has never lost. You know that, right? But you're doing great. You look fantastic. Also with us are Representatives John McGuire. John, hi, John. Good. Bill Heisinger. Bill, thank you. Ronnie Jackson, Doc Ronnie, as I call him, even though he's a congressman. Special guy. John Joyce. John. Thank you, John. David Joyce. David. Thank you. And Guy Reschenthaler. You know that Reschenthaler. That's actually the way you pronounce it, you know. Nobody else gets it right. I got it right, but it's a hell of a name. But despite that, he's very successful at what he does, which is politics. And he's a great guy. Thank you, Guy. We have come together to this beautiful White House this evening for the annual Shamrock Ceremony, a living symbol of the long and unique friendship between Americans and the Irish. And we're always going to have that friendship, just like we have a great friendship. We'll always have that very special friendship. This wonderful tradition dates back to 1952, when the first Irish ambassador to the United States sent President Truman a box of shamrocks as a gesture of goodwill. You hear that, Walsh? The first. You're not the first. You're, I don't know what you are. What number are you? Do you have any idea? It's been a long time, right? Let's see. I could figure it out pretty easily. The bond between our nations as the old America itself, and it is as old as our country. So many Irish volunteers risked their lives in the American Revolution, and George Washington described Ireland as, quote, the friend of my country in my country's most friendless day, meaning Ireland stuck with us when we were not doing so well, when it was looking pretty bad. Irish heritage gave us the boldness of Andrew Jackson. I didn't know Andrew Jackson was Irish. The brilliance of F. Scott Fitzgerald, Henry Ford, and Walt Disney, and the leadership of the late, great President Ronald Reagan. It was men and women of Irish descent who built the hallowed halls of Notre Dame University. Notre Dame is great. What a great place. The legend of the Boston Red Sox and the golden arches of McDonald's. That's right. Today, 1 in every 10 Americans trace their roots back to the old country. We're discussing, we have 5 million people living in Ireland, but we have 35 million people living here, right, of Irish descent. That's a pretty interesting statistic. I was looking at all these great dancers over here. You are very beautiful. Are you all great dancers, right? Look at that. Young, great dancers. Wow. That's great. Did you perform for the group before? Because I heard somebody was doing really fantastic. They said these people are fantastic. I didn't get to see you. Do you want to do it again? Well, we might have them do it again. I heard you did a fantastic job. Thank you. As we celebrate Irish American Heritage Month, we're grateful to be joined by hundreds of these proud patriots right here today. And I know them from personal experience that many of the people that we have here, they're just fierce. They have fierce Irish flame. We call it, you never give up. You never, ever give up. Oh, I even see Don. Hello, Don. You are definitely Irish, Don McGann. You are definitely an Irishman. There's no question about that. But you never give up. We will never give up ever, right? For the young ones, ever. Because you never know what's going to happen, you know? Just a little bit more effort and you get there. Look at what happened to me. A lot of people said this was not a possibility. He said that was going to be a tough race, and we won in a landslide, and let's keep it that way, right? And we're having a great time bringing our country back and bringing it back at a level that people had no idea was going to take place this rapidly, this quickly. And a lot of our great people that are secretaries and the people working in the administration are here, and they're doing a fantastic job. So I want to thank all of you. 5 blocks east of where we are today, that spirit once helped save the very heart of the city's Irish-American community. You all know about it. During the War of 1812, British forces rampaged through the streets of Washington, burning every building in their path. Every single building was being burned down. Almost every one fled, but not Father William Matthews of St. Patrick's Church, which was built to serve the Irish workers who came to build the Capitol and the White House. They were building the White House, and they formed a great bond. And they were doing the pretty important buildings, the White House and the Capitol. I would say that's about as good as it gets. As the fire spread, the priest and the group of his parishioners said that we're just going to have to barricade ourselves in. We're going to have to do something because it's really bad. It's really dangerous in here. And inside the church, they climbed to the roof, armed with only buckets of water. That's the only thing they had. And the other thing they had was faith in God. They had a big faith in God. They said, God will never do this to us. Risking their lives, they defended the church. And more than 2 centuries later, St. Patrick still stands as a beautiful testament to their incredible resolve and bravery, and the patron saint of the Emerald Isle. And that's what it is, St. Patrick. So we have St. Patrick's Day, and we remember their courage, and we honor the bravery of countless Irish Americans who have kept our country safe, strong, prosperous, and free. And I made a little talk with my friend right behind me before at the Capitol, and they gave me one statistic that they don't have here. I thought it was an amazing statistic. 50% of the people that won the Congressional Medal of Honor were Irish. Can you imagine? And I want to check on that, because that sounds to me, it's just that. I want to, Pam, would you please have that investigated? Because how is that possible? Seriously, how is that possible? I was very surprised to see that, Mary. Would you agree that that's possible? With the Irish, anything? With the Irish? No, think of it. The Congressional Medal of Honor is the highest award you can get in this country. And 50%, well, they also have the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But I will say the Presidential Medal of Freedom, it's much easier to, I mean, you get it for achievement in something, but you don't have to take many, many bullets, although there has been one bullet that was, there's been one bullet that was not too good. I'm the only one, the presidential, that got that. But think of that, 50% of the people that received the Congressional Medal of Honor had Irish heritage and were involved in some form with the Irish, and that's pretty good. That's a pretty big statement. In closing, I want to remember one more Irish-American patriot our nation lost this week. In 1979, Anthony R. Dolan, some of you know that name, a lot of the people that work in the White House know it very well, became the youngest ever Pulitzer Prize winner for his reporting on government corruption in Stamford, Connecticut. In 1981, he became the chief speechwriter to President Reagan, whom he served for 8 years. That's a long time. That's the full time, 8 years, coining the phrase evil empire. That was his word. That's a very famous, if people aren't here, the evil empire was a very profound statement. Tony served as a White House advisor throughout my first term, and most recently was a special assistant to President on domestic policy and the Domestic Policy Council. He passed away early Monday morning, and his family is devastated, to be honest. They're devastated. A couple of the family members are here, but they're devastated. He was a great person, great, brilliant writer, and so he will be very greatly missed. And Tony is looking down on us right now, and he was so proud of what he did and his heritage. He was so proud of his heritage. So I want to thank him and his family for the incredible job they did. Once again, let me wish everyone a very happy St. Patrick's Day. And with that, I would like to ask Taoiseach Martin to say a few words. He's a very, very special man in Ireland. As you probably know, he's a very popular guy, which is not easy in Ireland. And it's an honor to have both Mary and Michael here with us, because we really, we've gotten to know each other very well, and they're great people. Thank you very much, everybody.
President Trump, distinguished guests, it is a singular honour to represent the people of Ireland as we gather to celebrate St. Patrick's Day. The time-honoured tradition of the Shamrock Bowl ceremony is an important moment to reflect upon the relationship between our two countries. Mr. President, as you said on an earlier St. Patrick's Day, and I quote, "Through trial and triumph, ups and downs, thick and thin, the extraordinary Irish people have stood by America's side, and America will always stand by theirs." Our peoples have stood side by side for a long time. And next year, the United States marks the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence. Of the 56 signatories of that historic document, 3 were born on the island of Ireland, and many others were of Irish descent. Since then, Irish America has been at the heart of shaping this great nation. The ideals of liberty, democracy, and equality of opportunity forged in this country did much to inspire Irish independence. Our histories are interconnected because our people are interconnected. Today, as the President has said, more than 30 million people claim Irish ancestry in the United States. Those who came to America seeking refuge from poverty and hunger at home worked hard. They helped build the railroads that connected this country and the skylines that defined it. Others served their communities and their adopted home as firefighters, teachers, nurses, doctors, policemen, and soldiers. Irish people can now be found in almost every industry and community across the United States. Mr. President, Irish Americans have lived the American dream. I saw that for myself earlier this week in the great state of Texas, where I met Governor Greg Abbott, attended South by Southwest, and learned about exciting economic opportunities that abound in the Lone Star State. I met with Texan-based companies using Ireland as a gateway into the European market, as well as the Irish companies investing in and buying from Texas. All across the United States, men and women go to work every morning in Irish-owned companies. These companies play a key role in the US economy, operating in every sector, in every state. Some of your great American manufacturing companies count Irish buyers as their top client, with order books worth many billions of dollars supporting the jobs of thousands of fantastic American workers. Ireland is now in the top 10 as a source of foreign direct investment in the United States. Not bad for a small island. Ireland likes to trade with the United States, and the United States likes to do business with Ireland because we are strong and reliable partners. Mr. President, let's do even more and better together. In the past, Irish labourers came to help build the new republic, the beacon on the hill. They even built this beautiful White House. They built the roads and the railroads that made this mighty union possible. Today, Irish companies are building the infrastructure connecting the United States in the 21st century. Throughout our great shared history, Ireland has played a role in bringing America closer. In doing so, we've been proud to help make this country great. Mr. President, American companies continue to invest in Ireland, where our access to the European market, talented workforce, and consistent and stable business environment makes us one of the best places in the world to do business. And just like our peoples and cultures, our economies are deeply interconnected. Investment in Ireland helps American companies sell their products across the world. Our island is home to a people with an outward perspective, generations of whom have looked to the United States for opportunity and inspiration. We've built prosperity through free and fair trade with partners all over the world, and particularly here in these United States. Let us continue to build on that foundation, bringing ever-growing prosperity to both our great peoples. Let us continue to work together to make sure that we maintain that mutually beneficial two-way economic relationship that has allowed innovation and creativity and prosperity to thrive. Mr. President, on St. Patrick's Day in 1981, in this House, President Ronald Reagan spoke of a just and peaceful solution to the conflict in Northern Ireland. And that was the start of an extraordinary journey. 17 years later, after enormous effort and commitment and dialogue and disagreement and sheer perseverance, we signed the Good Friday Agreement. We signed a just and lasting peace into being. And the United States of America was at the very center of that magical moment of hope and inspiration. Successive presidents, Republican and Democrat, cared enough to put in the late nights, the persuading, the cajoling, the negotiating, the encouraging, the influencing. And Mr. President, 3,720 people were killed in that conflict and close to 50,000 people were injured. In per capita terms, that's many millions of Americans. And just imagine that for a moment in terms of the scale of what happened. It was the support of the United States of America that was essential in bringing that to an end. One of the greatest achievements of American foreign policy, with heartfelt commitment from both sides of the aisle. The story of peace in Ireland is one that we wrote together. We know building peace is a difficult and painstaking task, but when the mighty United States of America puts its shoulder to the wheel, there is no mountain it cannot move. Mr. President, I welcome the unrelenting focus and energy you have brought to the search for peace in Ukraine and in the Middle East since your first days in office. In my view, there is nothing more noble, President, than the pursuit of peace, and this is what you are doing. Ireland is ready to work with you and our international partners to end conflict and especially to bring just, lasting and sustainable peace to the people of Ukraine and the people of the Middle East. Conflict and war hurt the most vulnerable. Too many children in particular have died in Gaza, in Israel, in Sudan, and too many children have been abducted in Ukraine. Let us together never cease to strive for peace, prosperity and opportunity for all the world's children. That would be an extraordinary achievement for the transatlantic relationship and an extraordinary legacy for the ages. Mr. President, County Clare is one of the most beautiful places on this earth. And Doonbeg is one of its finest jewels. One of Ireland's finest poets, and we've had a few, as you know, wrote of the beauty of County Clare along the flaggy shore in September or October, when the wind and the light are working off each other. And Heaney wrote of how Ireland can catch the heart off guard and blow it open. I have been to that part of Clare, and I know that that is true. Mr. President, I hope that we can welcome you to Ireland soon to catch your own heart off guard. You know better than anyone the beauty of Doonbeg, a place that would take anyone's breath away. Gorv míle amahagut, Banachti na féle Podrig Oruv Galer. Thank you very much indeed, and happy St. Patrick's Day to you all. Thank you. time-honored tradition, I'm going to present a bowl of shamrock to President Trump.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you guys are the best. Thank you for tuning in. It is currently 4:55 a.m. and today's date is the 13th of March, 2025. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream right now. And if you want to keep the stream going, let me know in the chat. I can start another one. But yes, we've had a good run. We've been streaming for 3 hours, 44 minutes. You guys are the best. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, and believe in Almighty God. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you for double tapping your screen. Thank you for being a part of the live stream. God bless you guys. All right. Stay strong. Life is hard. Take care of your family. And be responsible, okay? And change your story, okay? Change your life, change your story. It's going to be hard, but stay focused, stay disciplined, and just stay on course, man. Stay on course. All right. I love you guys. Stay tuned. If you want another live stream, let me know in the chat right now. Your boy Genesis is signing out.